Hey, hold on just a second, guys. I got to take this.
So he muted his line, but can he still hear us?
Don't.
Thanks, Mr. Spielberg. Yep.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
How do I unmute this?
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 100 of the Invincible podcast, the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is a show where friends sit around and talk all things Invincible, a comic book and animated series by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. I am one of your hosts, Ryan. Joining me today is Bill.
Hi, everybody.
And TJ.
Oh, hello, it's TJ.
It's a sweet one.
No, you can't do it. It's his thing.
I can introduce DJ.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Oh my God.
I'm doing. I'm a little sick of the two of you, to be honest.
We've seen each other a lot.
It's been a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. You know, these last couple months, we've seen each other. We've recorded more than ever before. We just recorded an awesome interview with Robert Kirkman last night. Can't wait for everybody to hear that. Coming up very soon. We want to kick off. Go ahead.
Can I say
Yes.
that, like, we're thinking about this episode and how cool it is that our 100th episode is falling with an interview with Robert Kirkman, and it's falling on the season finale of season 1 Invincible animated series.
Mm-hmm.
But can I just say, like, just draw more attention to the fact that we did a fucking 100 episodes.
Yeah.
100 episodes.
Yeah.
Is that a lot?
Not counting a couple unnumbered ones thrown in there and a couple videos and other stuff that we've done. It's I don't know. It feels like it's a lot.
Well, I feel like I think back to our 25th episode and we were like, oh, we got to do something special. It's 25.
Yeah.
What stupid assholes we were.
We had no idea. I think
25 episodes.
I think 5 years feels crazier than 100 episodes to me. Like we were talking earlier
25?
today. What's that?
You said what feels crazier?
5 years. The fact that we've been doing it for 5 years. We were talking earlier how we've been doing the show longer than I've been married. Go back to early episodes of this podcast and we were talking about how my wedding was coming up. It's crazy. Oblivion Song wasn't a thing. Invincible was still going on as a comic book. But
I think what's crazier is that we're stupid and crazy enough to have had 100 plus episodes. Not counting all the live streams and stuff about a singular comic book.
Yeah.
That ended how many years ago now? 4?
Not quite. 3
years ago? That's crazier. That's like the craziest thing.
Yeah. And there were definitely times where we're like, what are we going to talk about next month? We got an episode coming up. Nothing's really happened.
We did a lot of digging.
So there was a couple, but thank God there's a ton of tie-ins and all that kind of stuff for us to dive into. And I mean, if anything, it made us, really know Invincible even more. But anytime we were getting close to a point where it was like, I don't know what else we're going to talk about, something would happen. And I mean, a lot's changed in 5 years.
What's interesting is I think, wouldn't it be cool if we started doing rereaders again, like with us, and that way people don't have to go back and listen to old episodes. Like we can like the DC reboot, like Invincible podcast episode 0.
You're already thinking you want to do the reread again? Remember, it took us 2 years.
Exactly. Who knows when season 2 is going to come out?
If we do the reread, it would probably end right before season 2 started.
Yeah.
Ryan doesn't hate that idea.
Moving on.
Another reread. Oh my gosh.
I will also say, I mean, yes, we've got emails about everyone watching episode 7, and then obviously the finale. Then there was questions for Robert Kirkman. This was above and beyond the most emails we've ever gotten from listeners. So thank you guys so much. We spent a lot of time going through and picking some out and trying to combine ones that asked similar questions. And I just want to say thanks to everyone that wrote in. We did read everything. So if you want to write in, You can email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're on all podcast platforms as far as I know: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything, Google Play. You can find our website, theinvinciblepodcast.com. On there you'll find a handy reading guide if you're just getting into the series. All of our episodes, our goofy videos that are out there, those are easy to find on there. We also do the Oblivion Song podcast. TJ brings it up during the Kirkman interview. That is a comic book that Robert Kirkman's doing, and if you are looking for other Robert Kirkman comic books, check it out. It's entering its final 6 issues, which is really exciting. Good time to jump onto that for the hype of the end, which they did announce a movie for that, didn't they, TJ?
Yeah.
A while ago, yeah.
Like when the comic first came out.
So the rights are
not
out
only
there.
that, but it's like Ryan said, the final 6 issues are beginning, like the first one of the 6 comes out next month, comes out in June.
Great time. Yep.
But before that, there's only 30 issues so far. So it's a quick read. Like, catch up on that shit, because it's good. Give it a little time, just like Invincible. But that shit picks up, and it's great.
I think it hits pretty hard.
It
good
picks
all the
up
way
quicker
through.
than Invincible, I think.
Yeah.
But speaking of writing in and the shows that we do, and I want to talk a little about spoilers. I got an email here from Jamal. Jamal says, "Hi guys, I recently started reading Invincible when the TV series dropped and burned through the entire run in 3 weeks. I love to watch with the most recent episode, then listen to your podcast before watching the episode again while looking for all the cool things you guys called out. I think you do a good job avoiding comic spoilers beyond issue 25, but I also crave a discussion with comic spoilers. Might I recommend doing a no comic spoiler section of your podcast before opening up to full spoilers? Because there's only 1 episode left, I'd recommend a full comic spoiler season 1 in review podcast episode or episodes. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where the show is going based on what's to come in the comics, as I have many of my own and don't know anybody who has read the comic to discuss with them. Best, Jamal." Now, I will say, Frank Silva wrote in, Connor Tramo wrote in, all kind of asking this a similar thing.
Well, can I say,
yes,
like I've said, we've seen a lot of each other lately, and it's all been because of this season and us reviewing and stuff. But now, like, we got not shit to talk about, so that's what we're going to be doing for the next probably like 2 years until we get season 2.
We're going to follow the same format for this episode. We're not going to blatantly spoil anything past episode or issue 25 as usual. After this, though, episode 101. All bets are off. We are a podcast for the comic book first and foremost, and we are definitely talking about where we think season 2 might go. That's going to be a big thing that we're going to be talking about later on. We got a lot to talk about. Oh yeah,
in-depth spoiler filled reviews of the entire season.
We got a lot to talk about with this episode, between the Kirkman interview, the recap, some news items. So starting next episode, we're going to be diving into more of those kind of things, more, maybe fun kind of off the wall episodes. We got some videos that we've been wanting to do. We had them planned before COVID happened and then couldn't do them, obviously. So hopefully now that we're all vaccinated, we might be able to do these videos. So we've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline that we could still do. And I will say, though,
Trivia Part 2.
Hey,
I'm throwing it out there.
I know. I'm in. Let's do it. I will say we aren't going to stay weekly. That was just for the show. We're aiming. It's rough. It's rough with 3 full-time jobs. But I will say we're going to try and get one out in 2 weeks just to kind of ease it in. And there's still a lot of excitement, a lot of things we want to talk about sooner. But at some point, we'll probably go back to being a monthly podcast where we release on the first Friday of every month. So that's in the pipeline, in the works. And obviously, as we've been saying for 5 years, as long as there's stuff to talk about with Invincible, we're going to want to talk about it. Of all those emails that were sent in, we have a pile of ones of things that were like, we need to come back to this email. So if we didn't read your email today, or if you want to send in some suggestions, we love hearing them, and we love talking about that kind of stuff. Clearly.
Speaking of getting back to normal too, and speaking of emails, like another thing is getting back to talking about other things that we're doing. We kind of got away from that. And
that was a segment. That was a whole segment on our show.
Yeah. And, Michael Petrie wrote in and said, on the last podcast, one of you guys recommended Final Space. I had never heard of it, tried it, and I love it. So recommend some more shows, please. We will be recommending more shows, but holy shit. Again, Final Space, we can't stop talking about it.
And that wasn't even the only email. Someone else wrote in and said, thank you, TJ, for recommending Final Space and Radiant Black last episode.
Oh, yeah, dude. We think Radiant Black is good now. Like you don't like we were able to read a little bit further. Holy shit. Man. It's good stuff. You don't even know.
All right. We're going into news. So some of the latest news that's happened since the end of episode 7 happened. So that weekend into this weekend now. I'm starting it off. Season 2 and 3. We got it.
Man, I don't know if like I think the excitement in the air for getting that announcement was almost as huge as getting the announcement that the show was happening. Like, yeah, I just didn't know what to do. Like my Twitter was blowing up. My text messaging was blowing up. Like I didn't even like know how to be in my own skin. It was insane. It was an amazing feeling.
A relief too, because this whole time we're like, why? It's doing so well. It seems to be doing so well. Is it not doing well? Like all these things. And for it to just be announced and to be 2 and 3, Kirkman and Steven Yeun did that awesome video. Like
that's honestly what got me is like, I knew that they had to do season 2. It's doing so well. When are they going to announce season 2? When they hit season 3 too, like my stomach dropped. I'm at work and I'm like, holy shit. Like I didn't even know how to function. I was so happy. Like it's such a load off. Because you know what I mean? Like, we're going to get so much story. Like, oh, like season 2 is coming. I want to see like the next villain. But now we know that season 3 is coming. We're going to get like other villains and like.
But not only that, like while we're watching season 1, we're like, oh, maybe that person will show up in season 2. If they get a season 2. Now we can watch season 2 knowing that they're writing and planning season 2. With season 3 already being worked on as well at the same time. So it's like, it's going to feel great.
We're going to talk about this much over the next however long, but like season 2 with them knowing that there's going to be a season 3, I'm calling it years in advance. Season 2 is going to end with an insane cliffhanger and it's going to leave us all sick.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Because they know there's going to be a season 3.
We'll talk about it later. So since then, we've got 2 weekends worth of new merch, new posters. They even put the posters up for sale in limited edition versions of them.
First one sold out.
First and finale. I mean, that was just of this morning. So I don't know where they're at now, but.
Did you? I got the first one.
I got the
Ryan,
first one.
I think you got the first one. TJ,
you got one or two, right?
Did you get any? Did you get any of the posters, TJ?
I got all of them.
$40 a pop, and you got
poor guy.
6 of them.
Is it 6 of them? Oh my fucking god!
I'm not like over ecstatic about it, but I'll once I have them and they're framed, I'm sure I'll get over it.
And they actually released the size of them, and they're actually the size of like a trading card. Yeah, so they're going to be like they can fit in your wallet.
Carry them around with you everywhere, TJ. No, they're not.
We actually did find out how big they are, though, right? Well,
26 by 16.
Yeah,
right.
Not
16 by 24. 16 by 24.
16 by 24. Yeah. Not terrible. Not terrible.
No. We've got. Obviously, there was the bonus content for episodes 7 and 8, and with the end of 8, there was the making of as well. Not only the commentary for 8, but the art behind the scenes. Those were great. I love it. Like each of those is 5 to 8 minutes or so. Put all those together and we've got a whole nother episode worth of like content. You know what I mean? So it's like, you
have like a full length documentary. Like it's
significant enough that, there's a lot. Simon Rasiopa did a Reddit AMA over on the Invincible Reddit page. One of my favorite things that came out of that was someone asked him.
So he's the showrunner, right?
No, not the showrunner. He was the writer of episodes. I'm sorry, I don't remember the first one. It might have been 2 and 7. Okay. Definitely 7. I couldn't remember the other one they wrote. Maybe it was 3. I don't know. But anyways, he was talking about in episode 7 when William was talking about the burger and like a samurai movie, and Mark just he's dead, but he doesn't know it yet, and the burger's sliding off and splitting in half. Someone asked if that was kind of a subtle foreshadowing at the immortal getting cut in half, and he said yes. Basically. And along with other, callbacks to other things that he loves. But I thought that was a really cool, interesting thing that we didn't catch. Something else, the official Invincible Twitter account posted a really cool behind the scenes in the booth of Steven Yeun, J.K. Simmons, and Sandra Oh all recording that, like one of the first scenes, which was cool, seeing them all together in the booth recording like that. And we talk a little bit about what it's like, seeing the actors in the booth recording certain scenes with Robert Kirkman.
It's a fun one. It's a fun one.
Yeah. And then 2 more things here. If you didn't see that post over on Corey Walker's blog, we also tweeted about it. He brought up the Adam Eve logo, and I was seeing a lot of this going around early on when the first couple episodes were released. People talking about how Adam Eve has, it's the female symbol, but it's crossed out with an X. So she's like anti, feminine or whatever. It is this whole thing.
Yeah, I saw. I didn't understand it at first. Like when people were complaining about it, they're like, "Oh, and even Adam Eve's symbol is like, whatever." And I'm like, "What?"
Didn't we talk about this on the last podcast?
No, I don't remember talking about it. No,
we didn't talk about it. Oh, okay.
I always assumed that what it actually is, and what Corey Walker clarifies, that it's supposed to be. I mean, with animation, if she's really far away or if it's a simplified scene or whatever, it's the simplified version of it. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to get that much detail when the character is that small. But then in closer up, shots, it would have been the full, whatever they're called.
An atom.
Atoms,
like it's supposed to look like an atom with a circle and then circles going around it. Yeah. But instead it looks like an X.
Yeah. But he did say that in subsequent seasons, if there are any, that it would be fixed.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure everybody was aware of that if they missed it. The last thing, another cool thing posted over on Twitter was Laura Innes, a storyboard artist, was posting some really cool recaps, or not recaps, but just images of the work that she had done on the series. And that was a really fun thing to look through. So check that out. Laura Innes over on Twitter. I believe Invincible HQ reposted that as well. All right. We've made him wait long enough. Is it time?
For the Robert Kirkman interview?
Yes, it is.
I think it's time.
All right, everybody, enjoy.
This is the beginning of a long journey for you, son. The thing is, you're different. You actually are.
Welcome back to the show, Robert. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 100. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me. It's very exciting. A little bit has changed since episode 50.
Yeah, a little bit. Congratulations. Holy shit. Season 2 and 3 announced yesterday as of this recording.
Very excited.
Thanks for saving it so that we didn't have to beat around the bush on this talk.
Yes. It's that news has been like a main topic. Like, when is it coming? Like, are they doing season 2? I feel like the show's doing really well, but like, when is it going to happen? Why haven't they announced it yet? So, and not to mention that like this show is kind of keeping our podcast alive, so we needed to keep going too. So, but
I got comic books to sell, so I'm as invested in the show getting announced as you guys are. So
exactly. So speaking of which, like, how long have you known, and what was your reaction to it?
How long have I known that we were getting picked up?
For season 2 and 3.
Yeah. I mean, not that much longer than the public. Amazon's pretty close to the vest. So, we were getting a lot of like shows doing really good. It's exceeding expectations. We're very happy.
Good.
So that was all great. And so I'd be like, cool. So, pick up. And they'd be like, you're really annoying. And, the way that we ended the finale, I have worked a lot with people on television, and there's like one school of thought where it's like, we should have like an ambiguous ending to a season 1 because you never know. And you don't want to leave people hanging. And, like you really want to give the audience a sense of closure just in case you don't get to pick up. They've at least got a story. And I'm like, if the show doesn't get picked up, I don't care. Like, I would rather try to build to the coolest thing in the world and hope that the, network or studio or whoever is like, well, I guess we have to pick this up. We can't leave things off here.
Because it wouldn't be satisfying to you anyways if you just kind of like, this is how it ends. And it's like, but it's not.
Yeah. But so that's why I packed the end of that episode with all of those like, hey, guess what? This is coming, and this is coming, and this is coming, and this is coming. And there was a lot more that we ended up having to trim out because
I can guess.
They were like,
I can guess.
12 of these, Robert.
Yeah.
We need director's cuts or creator cuts of the entire season.
Well, that stuff was all cut in the script stage, so there wasn't anything actually done to be seen or anything. But I didn't want to go into the finale without without giving fans a sense of like, hey, there's going to be more coming. So the timing really, worked out perfectly to be able to announce it right before the finale comes out. So I was really excited with how that came. And I got to say, Amazon has been absolutely amazing in this process, and I think you can see from the show that they really let us run wild and do absolutely insane stuff, which I couldn't be more appreciative of. And, they're really excited about the show and very excited for the future. And, we've got some really great stuff planned. And, I can't wait for, whatever year it is that season 2 will come out.
Yeah.
When you were on last, I remember you talking about how, at the end of episode 1, like how, oh my God, like you wanted us, I think we talked about this off air, but you wanted it to be like, where's all the gore? Where's all the gore? And then it hits. And I was thinking, I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, holy shit. Like Robert knew that this finale was going to happen. And in my opinion, like what the shit that was going on in that last episode was like leaps and bounds more insane than him killing the Guardians. Like insane. And I can't believe how hard it hit with it being a cartoon. Like the fact that it's animation, and I was still like gasping, like really emotionally attached to everything that was going on. I've never felt that way with a cartoon, and a ton of people feel that way too, which I think is great.
That's awesome, Bill. No, that's great to hear. I mean, I think, if you look at the life of Invincible and Walking Dead, I'm all about escalation. And so you have to make sure that you're topping the thing that you did before it. I mean, if the fight happened between Mark and Omni-Man and was kind of lackluster in comparison to the sequence with the Guardians, it would be kind of a deflation of momentum. And, you don't want that. So just imagine how crazy the Conquest fight is going to be.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh my God.
And I'm seeing that. And like people talk about like, oh, you have no idea. If you think Mark's getting the shit kicked out of him now, you don't know.
It can't get any worse. I mean, the finale was insane. It's the whole season though. Like I found myself preparing for the next episode. There were teases that Battle Beast was going to be in the next episode, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be nuts because we know what to expect. Every episode we know what to expect, but still, I found all three of us were like, holy shit.
You've talked about that before where you want to, I mean, you know, whether it's Walking Dead or Outcast or Invincible, you want the readers to still have something to look forward to and to be surprised and not be able to know exactly where, you know, what's coming next and how you're going to do it. And the way you guys actually sold that and it's still, I mean, it was still everything from the comic, but it still surprised us in so many ways. It was we couldn't believe it. It was awesome. And
yeah, so I mean, good. I've been getting asked a lot about well, should I read the comic first, or now that the show's out, should I watch the show? And there is a decision there because it is a different experience whether you've read the comic or not. But I mean, you know, we designed things in the show specifically for people who have read the comic in a way that I feel like it's a much more, fulfilling experience if you have read the comic book. So by all means, people, choose whichever one you want to do. But if you've read the comic book, you'll be like, oh, they added this thing and they've done this differently. And, we will be able to kind of trick you into thinking, what's coming. And then, pull the rug out from under you in a certain way, which I think is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. One thing that, like you just said, kind of creating season 1 for the comic reader and for, someone who doesn't know Invincible. One of my favorite things, and I talked about it a lot in our reviews, is in the first episode, War Woman says he must be like someone's controlling him. He's being mind controlled. And then in the finale, it's the first thing that Mark says. He's like, please, like, tell me, let my dad go. Like, it's such a genius way to keep people guessing. And it got like my nephew and like people, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, there's a reason. And he's like saying, Debbie, please trust me. There is a reason for this. And they're like, there's got to be something more. And there just fucking wasn't.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to subverting the
Perfect.
expectations of what you know in the comic. What you know in the comic is Nolan immediately hits him. But in this, Mark throws the first punch. And so there's that.
All of our reactions. Do you remember our reactions when we were watching it? So we're like, what the fuck is going on right now? Frank Silva, a fan who wrote in, has a question that kind of relates to this. So he says, which change from the comic to the show are you most proud of?
Most proud of? I mean, the stuff that I was like, from the episodes that I specifically wrote, I guess, I'm really happy with just the little bits of dialogue that I added in that Nolan says that, hints at the stuff that comes in the finale that we ended up replaying a little bit in the finale. Just because, being able to come in with the hindsight of the comic and knowing where everything goes, I was, particularly happy with the fact that, I don't think most people catch this, but when Nolan is talking to Mark, he says, there's a long journey ahead of us for you and me. And he doesn't mention Debbie. So I think there's little things like that where if you are aware of the fact that they lived for thousands of years and that they are Viltrumites, you're like, oh, he's already hinting that, he recognizes that Debbie's not a part of this picture. So there's a lot of fun stuff there. As far as stuff that I had nothing to do with, there's not a lot in the show I didn't have something to do with, but no, Simon did a lot of great stuff along the way that I really loved. Simon Rasiopa, our head writer, the stuff that he added into episode 7 that wasn't in the show at all. The kaiju thing and the way that the robot and Immortal and all these different storylines, like kind of like a really cool episode of Seinfeld, they all kind of crash into the same minute, which was pretty cool. And is not necessarily how we did it in the comic. No. I also, the writer Ryan Ridley, who did episode 4, I just absolutely love the Cahor subplot that he added at the beginning of that episode, because it just he just kind of came in one day and was like, I think for my episode, I'm gonna do this little thing, but it's like this stupid thing that doesn't add anything. It's just like this little gag.
And you're like, that's what I do to the readers.
Exactly. And Ryan is a fan of the comic from way back. I used to be on his Grandma's Virginity podcast that he would do with Justin Roiland and Jackie Buscarino. And, we talked about Invincible like way back in the day. And so he was kind of like, I thought it'd be kind of like one of those weird subplots you do in the comic and I was like, this is perfect. And so now we've got one of the like original runners to the show. Like, I can't wait to figure out like what the hell we're going to do with Cahor. And,
that's cool.
Maybe there'll be some kind of massive storyline in season 5 where they're all teaming up to fight him. And it'll be because of this like dumb idea that Ryan inserted, haphazardly into this episode. And that's just the best stuff. I mean, that's like quintessential Invincible.
Absolutely.
Chef's kiss. Mwah.
Yeah.
It did feel that way. After we finished the first season, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that mummy thing didn't show back up. I'm like, that's fucking it's written all over it. And it's gonna be like a 3-minute thing and then just done. You know what I mean? It's gonna be this big huge thing. I can just imagine it. So are you saying that I can't believe you mentioned episode 7 and you didn't talk about the fact that there is a transformer in Invincible and you didn't have anything to do with that? I don't believe it at all.
Well, they, when that was being written, they were like, is it okay if robot has like a transforming truck? And I was like, okay.
I guess.
And then in the process, I think it became like they were doing it for me because they know how much I love Transformers. So it's like, Robert's transforming truck thing that, we're doing for him, like whatever. So yeah, I was 100% on board with that. Look, it's hard for me to pinpoint, there's a lot of great things that were done on the show that I think are, absolutely spectacular. There's some really great stuff that was done with Titan that, was original to the show. And, I don't know, some of the reanimate adjustments that were made, I'm pretty proud of how it all turned out.
Definitely.
Speaking of adjustments too, like how characters evolved, like it was insane how they evolved from the comic to the show. So the 3 that stick out in my mind are Damien Darkblood, Amber, and William.
Debbie.
And Debbie.
Debbie.
For sure.
Obviously Debbie. are like nothing like they were in the comic. Like, I mean, they still have like the, you know, who they are as people, but like Amber is like such a strong, like willed person. And I felt like she wasn't that like strong willed and very like matter of fact about things and not afraid to speak her mind to Mark. You know, William was kind of like the heart of the show. I felt like he was funny. He, you know, I mean, he was in the comic too, but like it just, you know, like just all the more in the show itself. And then Damien Darkblood, like he may have been my favorite character. Him and Amber may have been my favorite character. And I never would have thought that even possible. Like he was incredible in the show. And I'm sure we're going to get some more of him. I hope we get some more of him, but I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, you guys might be listening to all of my interviews, but I have publicly stated that, you know, I think I've mentioned before that, you know, I always wanted to have a storyline in the comics where they go to hell, because I think that's a trope. You know, you get like just fighting Mephisto in the underworld, and you know, there's a lot of, you know, DC stuff where they go and they, you know, do stuff in hell. And so I had always planned at some point to have some kind of Damien Darkblood centric story that, you know, leads to Invincible going to some version of the hell dimension, whatever it is in the Invincible universe. And I just never got around to it. And so, so yeah, I mean, Clancy Brown was amazing, and, you know, I can't imagine we won't see him again. And I'm hoping at some point in the, you know, run of the show to do some version of, you know, what I had planned that I never got around to doing in the comics. So, you know, I mean, I talk about a lot about how, like, I changed Walking Dead, the show, or pushed for a lot of changes in the writer's room because I was bored, because I was adapting my own material. And I think on Invincible, I'm trying to do that a little less, although you guys can see the changes. And I hope you agree that, you know, we're definitely improving the material. But I think one of the things I'm really excited about doing in Invincible is completely original storylines from time to time that are just in the show, that will always kind of dovetail and mix in with things from the comics. But I think it'll be neat to have some things in there that are, you know, completely different and completely new. Yeah. So, you know, you guys and anyone else that's really familiar with the comics will be like, oh my God, like this is, you know, this is crazy. So
yeah.
We did get that a lot though in this season, which is good though.
Yeah.
Too.
You just kind of answered it, but Paul from Scotland wanted to know if there was a moment or scene coming up, whether it's season 2 or 3 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is, that you're really excited about.
I mean,
what's something that you can't wait to get animated?
You know, I don't want to spoil too much.
Okay, that's fine.
There's a lot of great stuff that we've. The things I want to talk about, I can't talk about because that'll spoil things.
That's a more exciting answer, because that means that you've actually got. It's not like, oh yeah, Conquest, you know, obviously, but there's something specific that you're thinking of, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of sequences that
that's
you
cool.
know, Ori and I have talked about, like, oh, we could do this way, and we could do this way, and things like that. But no, I mean, you know, look, everybody's excited about the Conquest stuff, and I already have some like really cool tweaks in mind for how to change that up.
I'm not fucking ready for that. I'm not ready to be annihilated. Like to just have my mind melded again. Yeah. I've already seen it in the comics. It's going to be tough enough. I'm not prepared for changes to that in a good way.
I'm ready. I'm not ready for it to be over.
I'm not going to say who, but I have like the perfect voice actor in mind that I'm very excited about.
Oh my God.
There's a lot about that I'm really excited about.
Cool.
Also, you know, there's a lot of stuff with Angstrom Levy that I think is going to be really cool. So I'm looking forward to getting to that.
Yeah.
And that'll happen sooner than Conquest.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how you guys didn't squeeze in a tease at the end there. I really thought it, man.
Dude,
but you know, I will say,
when the Maulers were in the jail, we thought for sure that there was going to be a portal opening up and they were going to like walk through it or something.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah. But I will say, I expected that more than I expected just the amount of things you threw at us at the end, though. You made up for it well and beyond with all the little things. I did not expect to see Mr. Liu and Titan again in the sequence. The Flaxons back already. Oh my God. Civilizations already coming. Oh, dude. That's really cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Let's see here. We've got one from Mara Camille. She says, in episode 6, we see Eve growing trees and grapevines, which would fall under organic matter. Going to be some different restrictions in the show, or tweaking that at all? Okay. All right.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. It could be living human tissue instead, but it'll definitely be covered in some way. Don't you worry.
That's the way I headcanoned it. Yeah, it's not human tissue.
You can make up any science you want to and just stick to the rule.
That's all.
That's right, Bill.
Yeah.
Mike Barrett writes in and wants to know, how dead is Donald?
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
I think, you know what, and there was a point, you mentioned an interview you did referring to hell. I want to say there was something else regarding Donald that you wanted to do back in the day that you never really did, if I'm remembering correctly, in the comics.
I mean, I can't remember if I know I always wanted to introduce his twin brother, Rom.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. We may not be doing that. I mean, maybe eventually, but we'll see. But I will say, Chris Diamantopoulos, who does the voice of Donald, who also did the voice of Doc Seismic, and I am forgetting, he did another cool voice as well. But he's absolutely spectacular and absolutely amazing. And whether Donald is back or not, we will have him back. 10 times to play 100 different characters.
Do you guys plan?
I just so much.
Do you guys plan ahead of time before even writing? Like, okay, we want this person to be playing these roles. Like, how do you know? Or is it like, we have all these roles? Chris, you want to do them too, or is it more structured than that?
I mean, people like Gray Griffin and Christy Diamantopoulos, they're voice actors. Ross Marquand, they're known for doing multiple characters, and so when we cast people like that, it's like, oh, they could play 2 or 3 different people, which is really exciting. So it's not, it's kind of mapped out beforehand. It's not like you get into the recording, you're like, hey, we've got this other role, maybe throw this one in too, because I mean it's all pre-negotiated. But
because there are some times where they're really minor roles. They might be someone that does something really quick, and I wasn't sure if that was like, all right, we just need to run through a couple of these lines. You have a couple different actors do it, so that way you go with one of them. When it's you're not shooting live action, so what happens is they make lists of how many lines of dialogue each character has, and you do get to the bottom where it's like, okay, we have these 6 people that have like 1 line or 2 or 3 lines, and it's like why would you hire an actor just to come in for 1 line? And so then you have somebody that can do different voices say, oh God, look over there, and then you're like, okay, check that one. Oh, I think it was
like live action. You'd have to actually bring in a person because you're like, wait a minute, that's the same person over there. Like, what's going on? But you don't have to do that with animation.
I think I thought of that because of the beginning of it was at episode 6 with the frat girls or whatever it was, the fraternity girls. Walking at the beginning was
Justin Roiland there.
Yeah, but I want to say that the 3 girls were like Adam, Eve, Amber. I want to say there was a few of familiar voices. Yeah.
I mean, Kari Payton is the fighter jet pilot.
Oh,
that gets smashed.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So there's there's stuff like that where we'll just like the guy only has like 2 or 3 lines, so makes sense.
That's awesome.
Ryan, you had a question that I don't want to ask, but I think
it pertains
regarding Rudy.
Yeah, like I remember a ton of conversation. Go figure about. Is it going to be Jason Mantzoukas? Is it going to be Zachary Quinto? Who's going to do the voice of Rudy and all this kind of stuff? And I know you had said at one point in an AMA or something like, we know, we got it figured out, we're aware.
And I'll add too, like that we debated a lot on this. Ryan and I both thought that it was going to be Jason Mantzoukas, and Bill was convinced that it was going to be help me.
Zachary Quinto.
And we were just all fucking wrong.
But in the best way.
way.
Mm-hmm. So Zachary Quinto is Rudy's original voice, which is what robot voice is based on. Mm-hmm. So Zachary Quinto, Rudy is dead, but the robot voice will always be Zachary Quinto. So like when he's in the robot suit.
Oh, okay.
And fantastic. And so that's the idea.
Thank you.
Now that Robot is in the Rex clone body, Jason Mantzoukas, he's a buddy of mine, and so I was like, can you do like a kid version of yourself? And he's like, pal, I got 1 voice. And I was like, all right.
That was a pretty good impression.
Ross Marquand, who can do a billion voices. I was like, can you do a version of Jason Mantzoukas that sounds a little different, that like makes it sounds like he's younger? And he was like, let me try. And so Ross Marquand is doing young Rex, or a young Rudy and Rex. I have trouble keeping them all straight. Which I love how complicated Invincible is when it gets to this kind of stuff. It's like the voice of the character that's in the clone body of the one guy, but when he gets older, But theoretically, the idea is that if the story continues and Rex grows, then eventually Mantzoukas will be taking over that role, because then the age will match and that's the plan.
It makes
he does
perfect
such
sense.
a good job too, because like he's like, it's literally, especially in episode 7, where it's showing a lot of Rudy toward the end, and then Rudy is talking in his normal like kid voice, and then it cuts to a scene because I'm sorry, what's his name? Ross
Marquand.
Marquand also voices Immortal. And then he goes from Rudy like talking normal to like, where is Omni-Man? Two completely different voices from the same person. He does an awesome job.
I think this is public. Right.
Give it to us. If it's not, it's okay.
No, it's just like a thing. So like, if Matthew McConaughey does a movie, and then Matthew McConaughey is off doing a different movie, and they have like 1 or 2 lines of ADR.
Oh my God.
Sometimes they can't get Matthew McConaughey to come back and do that one line. And so before Ross was on Walking Dead, he was the guy that they would call in, and they'd be like, okay, we need 1 line of Matthew McConaughey, do it. And so you'd be watching a Matthew McConaughey movie, and you don't realize that this 1 line that was inserted in is not Matthew McConaughey talking at all.
That's awesome.
So he does that for,
he was just on
people.
He was just on the Skybound's Walking Dead podcast, and he's incredible. Like the voices that he can do is just so cool.
He's the best.
He's
I
awesome.
mean, you guys know he's the Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, right?
Yes, you're right. I forgot, but yes, because after Infinity War came out, I remember everybody looking it up and being like, "Oh, it's actually not, what's his name?" And we
Hugo
knew,
Weaving.
Yeah, and right, hey, it's the guy from Walking Dead.
Yeah. Hugo Weaving doesn't want to be in the makeup, and so they were like, Ross, Hugo Weaving Red Skull, and he was like, "I sure can."
Yeah,
and he literally Aaron in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally sounded more like Hugo Weaving than Hugo Weaving did in Endgame. I was like, get the fuck out. This is like awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. So the robot scene, there are moments that I cried that I like.
Before you go into that, like he also is Aquarius.
Yeah.
And so we're in the recording booth, and I'm like, I don't know, man, like a fish person. he's like,
is he just kind of like
he goes, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do my Jeff Bridges as if he's underwater.
No.
How do you think that'll sound? And I was like, yeah, let's try that. And so if you go back and you listen to Aquarius, you can totally hear that it's kind of Jeff Bridges-esque.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Dude. So there are 3 specific moments that I like got teared up and cried. It was when Rudy was saying goodbye to himself. That was
when he says because he doesn't do this in the comic. Together. He says we could put you back in. We could do it together. That's an addition that took us by surprise.
I mean, Zach and Ross in that scene are so spectacular.
Wow.
Yeah. That scene. The baseball scene, the like him watching his son hit a home run, dude, that was awesome. Then obviously I'd still have you, Dad. Is there a scene? Did you cry at all while watching it? Like, did you like?
I prefer not to answer for fear I may incriminate myself.
Yeah,
we're all friends here. You can let us know. The fans too.
Listen, I had to sit my kids down one time, and I was like, look, you're going to see me crying at movies. It's just going to happen. Like, I don't want you to think anything weird's happening. I cry a lot. Like, it's just a thing that I do. And I like to tell myself that the empathy I feel when I'm watching a movie or a TV show is the reason that I am able to write stories, because I can put myself into those situations and whatever. I cry like there's like 9 or 10 different points in the Speed Racer movie that I tear up. The first time I saw Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trailer, I was weeping.
Oh man!
Like Kevin Smith, I got nothing on me. But like I was just like, I can't believe Spider-Man is swinging on webs in a movie and it's real and I'm watching it and I don't know what's happening. And, oh my God. Like, I'm just like in front, like, and back then I'm like in front of my computer. I've got my ugly QuickTime window. I'm waiting for 40 seconds to load on my 56K modem, So are there scenes that make me tear? Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Definitely.
I would say like,
but
even
like I have a lot of there's a lot more like stuff that affects me than like the average viewer, because like the I'd have you dad line like harkens back to like a 18-year journey that I've been on, and the fact that that line became what it became in the show is something different for me, and the fact that it has been adapted into a show that exists and people are watching it and people are liking it, so it's not just the emotion of that moment in the story, it's also a hey, this little fat piece of shit from Kentucky did okay, like it's like a whole thing, so whatever.
There's layers.
And Steven, man, that
Jesus.
line, he killed it. He that last episode, dude.
The whole season.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like in the booth when they were doing that? I assume that was one of the scenes they
Were they
recorded
together?
together, right?
Were they?
You know what? Some of that stuff was together and some of that stuff was apart, because different things were done at different times. And I know that Steven came in and did a lot of ADR to picture, because we record the dialogue and then the animators animate from the dialogue, and then the stuff gets animated, and then sometimes we bring the actor in and let them like polish it up when the animation is all completely done.
Cool.
And so, there's many different rounds of different things. So like one line of dialogue could have been done with JK. One line of dialogue could have been done ADR by himself while he's watching the animation. And Steven really, like just punched everything up when he came in for his ADR session, and it really shows. So he did that, when he was looking at his script and picturing, the situation, which is fantastic. But then he gets to do it again when he's like actually seeing it all unfold in front of him, which, allows him to do a little bit of a different performance.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that stuff is, it's crazy. You're in a recording booth, you're behind a wall of glass, the actors, in the room, either with the other actor they're working with or by themselves, and they're kind of at a podium with their script and everything. But I'm sure you guys have seen like behind the scenes with Mark Hamill doing Joker voices and stuff. Like he's hopping around doing stuff and it's like that. Like Walton Goggins in particular, just like he likes to pace, and he's like. We'd be like, oh, you got to stay at the mic. You got to stay at the mic. He'd be like, God damn it. And there was one point where he was like, if I was on set right now, I'd be killing it. I can't stand having to stand in front of this mic. Because he's like a very animated, like his performance kind of comes out physically, which is great. But you kind of get to see the whole scene come to life, like in this booth with a guy like, wearing plain clothes and stuff. So like J.K. Simmons doing his like everything and everyone and everything, will turn to dust, like all that stuff. Those lines I'm getting on right now. He like the room shaking when he's doing that, like you're just like, I can't believe this is happening right now. Like J.K. Simmons is yelling. He's fucking yelling. He's yelling words I wrote. Like, holy crap, this is amazing. So that stuff was fun. I mean the scene where Sandra Oh or Debbie goes into the hallway after she's like
that's the scene that got me most.
Yeah, like but like in the booth, like she's doing the lines of dialogue when she's talking to Mark, and you can see that she's just breaking, like holding it all together, and then she goes out in the she goes out in the hallway. Sorry, I'm very tired. She goes out in the hallway and just like loses it, and she does all of this in the recording booth. And I've talked about this before, but like I'm like, wiping my eyes, crying, like, oh God, like, oh, this is killing me. And I'm like trying to like, cause you're in the booth with like 12 other people. And I'm just kind of like, oh God, this is really embarrassing. I can't believe this is just wrecking me like it is. And I look over and literally everyone's crying. And I was like, all right, we're good. It's okay.
Oh,
but yeah.
But I mean, the 500 years line, we've heard that so much from the comic, and then like obviously later on in the comic, and it's such a synonymous line in the comic itself. And then I heard it in the show, and we felt like we had to watch the finale, the three of us together. So we watched it together, and even like I looked over at them, I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna cry in front of them, like it was like I wasn't expecting that to hit me the way it did. And then it's funny because like later on I watched it with my mother, who never watches anything like this, and she's like, now you're your biggest fan, like all of a sudden. But I'm like watching it with her, and I'm actually like, I actually have videos because I'm trying to catch her reaction because she was struggling through the whole season finale. But like that line came up, and I like I wanted to get her reaction. I was recording it, and in the recording, like I'm watching her. And he says it, what are you going to have after 500 years? And he goes, you, Dad, I'd still have you. And then in the recording, you can actually hear me choking up because it got me again. It's like, it still hits me every time it hits me. It's so good. And like little things too, like I'll bring up episode 7, something so small that hit me and like kind of brought it, I was starting to choke up a little bit as everything crazy was happening. And it was showing like little shots of like different people and everything's going crazy and they're fighting the kaiju and everything. And Amanda just grabs Rudy's hand.
Oh yeah.
Right there, like
he
little
knows
things
what
like
he's
that.
doing with hands. Anytime hands are involved.
It's so good.
Should we have someone hold hands in this scene? We should, and it should be like this. Perfect.
Yeah,
Excellent.
there we go.
Everyone cry.
But TJ, so be honest though, you're recording your mother, you start tearing up. Does she look over at you and see you recording her and crying, and she's just like, what's wrong with you? I'm watching the cartoon, son. Like,
I was trying to be a little discreet about it. She did tear up though when he actually flew up into space and he was flying into space. I caught a glimpse of my mom just kind of wiping tears away.
So
yeah, you do it like the itch, right? Like, oh man, that was an itch.
Oh, it's crazy.
Still on the kind of train of the voice actors, I got to bring up Jeffrey Donovan in Machine Head.
Oh,
I mean,
my God.
that was so cool. That was one of those things, and I don't know if there's other things that you could think of, but within the last 2 months, I did not expect like our friend Wyatt to make this awesome music video to his song or to his auto-tuned voice, and like just things like that just kind of go a little viral, and his voice was just so cool.
Well, he was spectacular, and like I didn't think Machine Head shouldn't be one of my favorite characters in this show. Like that's just
Exactly
on this show. Like really Machine Head, but like he was so great, and like the imported Italian maple stuff.
My God.
There was only one mention. I can't remember if it was the door or I think it was the desk was in the script, and then he was like, you know what? When they bust through the door, I'm complaining about the door. Can I say also imported Italian? Like, yes, you can. Like that's great. And so he was doing that, and then just his line delivery was so perfect. And I can't even. So like the actors get cast, and then when they come in for their first recording session, like we didn't audition anybody, so it's not like I met anybody in auditions, and so they would just be like, like, would Jeffrey Donovan be good for this? And I'm like, fuck yes, Jeffrey Donovan. He's amazing. Like aside from Burn Notice, I think it's the second season of Fargo that he's in. Like just amazing. If you guys haven't watched that, no. He's so great. And so like you're meeting them for the first time when they come into the recording session, and a lot of the conversation and there's usually a packet, and it's like, here's what your character looks like, and here, and they've gotten the script and they've read it, and so they'll sometimes come in and have some questions. But the conversations you have with these actors, so you're a mobster and your head is a machine thing. It's like a big computer. I don't know, like, okay, yeah, all right. And then he just kind of went into the booth and just absolutely like killed it. And you write lines of dialogue, and when you write them, you kind of have a sense of the cadence of how they're supposed to be said. And so like every now and then like not on this show really, but like every now and then an actor will do it and you're like, oh yeah, not really getting there. And you gotta like give them a little notes or something. And then every now and then they'll, say it and it's exactly what you wanted. And you're like, oh my God, that's perfect. And then other times they'll do it and you're like, did I write that? Is that what are they saying the right line? That's way better than what we wrote. Nope, those are the same words. Like, oh my God, like holy crap, like that is
just elevate it that much.
Norman Reedus does that a lot, where he'll take a line of dialogue and be like, I'm gonna make it mean this, and you're like, what? Like, how did that happen? But Jeffrey Donovan was great at that. And then while we're talking about Machine Head, after he did his recording session, and the voices are worked into the animatics and everything, there's a lot of discussion about like, okay, well, he's called Machine Head, like what are we doing here? And the audio is just Jeffrey Donovan in a booth, and it was Corey Walker that was like, I think we should try to like auto tune it slightly. I think that would sound really cool. And there was even some pushback along the way of like, you think that'll really work? And it was like, no, gotta totally try that. And it really worked out. So I have to give Corey all the credit on the amazing auto tune and where all that went.
That's great. Love it,
man. It's those kinds of things that just fly high, man. Like, again, Ryan, you said never in a million years. I never would have thought that hearing an actual auto-tune voice would work. And at first I was like, is that auto-tune? And then I just fucking fell in love with it, and it worked so well. Like it's just crazy. And I still have Wyatt's freaking song. I know where your family lives.
It gets stuck in your head, man.
Speaking of Wyatt's songs, the internet has exploded. And like, what's it like seeing Invincible finally like blow up? It's not a best kept secret anymore. Not for us. Like, what I mean? It's everybody knows about it. Everybody loves it. Everybody's talking about it. What's it like seeing like all these memes and these videos and these parodies and like reviews and everything that it's getting?
It's really gratifying to know that I'm not seeing it all. Like it's grown to that level where I couldn't possibly see everything.
It's crazy.
That's really amazing. But I mean, it's I don't know. It's huge. It's a big deal because this is something that Corey and Ryan and I have poured decades of our lives into, and I know that definitely when we were still working on the book. Ryan and Corey are like, I hope you're having a lot of fun with Walking Dead. We'll just be over here doing this, whatever. And there was, Ryan would be like, yeah, like everybody's just, it's like talking about Walking Dead. Like, man, what's going on with Invincible? Like, everybody doesn't love Invincible. Like, what's happening? And so it's cool to be, in this moment and have everybody, talking about it and stuff. And it's also cool to know that, the material holds up and stuff. I mean, it has been a while. And so it's cool to see people enjoying it and everything. So I don't know. It's hard to put into words what it's like to have, something that, you're, in a room with a couple of guys making stuff up and putting it out in the world, and you have no idea if people are going to hate it or like it. And for it to grow into something like this, it's pretty moving and really gratifying. And I couldn't be more appreciative of all the fans that have been there since day one supporting the comic book to like get it to this point. Like we didn't get to issue 144 without having a really dedicated fan base that was there for us, like when we needed them. And so now that we don't need them, I'm glad that they have this show to enjoy. Like I hope that they feel like they've earned it.
Yeah. That's the thing. You mentioned that, you don't get to see, you can't possibly see everything online right now. And that was a weird turning point for us because there was, obviously a time when, especially doing this podcast, where we're like, all right, this guy, posted some, art about it. That's cool. Let's talk about that. And now it's like, there's just too much. There's so much. And for a while there, especially when the show first came out, we're like, this seems like it's doing really well, but we're also in a bubble of our own making. Like we surround ourselves with people who would like it and talk about it. And then it's like, oh no, this isn't just that. Now you're seeing it, sell out at Amazon. You can't buy it. Like the graphic novels, the trade paperbacks, everything. It's like, no, this is actually doing really well. This is actually
so why aren't they announcing season 2?
I know. So then that happened.
Talk about.
But yeah.
There are strategies that you have to adhere to when you announce new things. Like,
it was perfect. It was perfect.
I do think that the strategy has been so smart and so great. Like everything about the Invincible marketing has been awesome. We cannot buy there's Invincible merchandise that I can't get. Like I don't have enough money. Like, and that's crazy. And before we were like, oh, there's this pin. I need to get this pin. I can't tell Liz how much I spent, but it's a lot.
Speaking of which, though, like especially for like
message received, I'll try to send you guys some more stuff.
Oh, hey, wink, wink.
Speaking of which, and like merchandise and people who haven't read the comics, Rob Ladinsky writes in and wants to know: are there any plans to re-release the comics in any other like compendium format or like collected form?
I mean, not right now. I mean, the 3 formats that we have that are active are the trades and the Ultimate Collections and the compendiums. The complete Invincible Library editions, they were so expensive to produce. We only ended up doing 3 volumes. Yeah. That really bugs me. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to at some point soon actually finish out that run, because that'll be a complete really 6-volume set when it's all done. Cool. So yeah, that should happen. Also, the books are selling very briskly, so I'm hoping that at some point in the next 6 months or so we'll be able to reprint the Ultimate Collection Volume 9 and get that.
You're gonna make me buy it again, and I will gladly buy that again.
Fine.
I will gladly buy that again. Is that why? Seriously? Oh.
Well, it was an error. Yeah. But what's going to happen when we reprint it is I'm going to print a bunch of extra dust jackets, and so we'll probably put them on the Skybound website so you can buy the dust jacket for like 10 cents or something. And
that's really smart.
That's smart.
So anybody that has the volume can get a replacement dust jacket with the correct logo color. Because I look.
I know.
I understand.
I know. And it's like, I've always rationalized it too. I was always like, well, you see volume 8, the image and the 8 were in yellow, and so was the word Invincible. So when they changed those colors, they changed, totally. Yeah.
No. We've all names, but a very talented designer started working for us, I believe, and that was his first Invincible volume, and he was just being too creative. He was like, "Oh yeah, the logos change color on the spines, right? So this is going to be great." And then no one in the process caught it.
Sorry. Is there? We're talking about merchandise. I've always wondered: is there something like off the top of your head that's a really prized Invincible piece that you have, whether it's a piece of art or something else?
I love the Claiborne Moore statue that I see over your shoulder there. Yeah. The Invincible thing. That's a really cool thing. I have a bronze version of that.
I was going to ask if that existed.
Yeah, there's Claiborne Moore they were very expensive, and they're like 100% like real bronze. Like like he would cast it at like a real bronze. Is it called a refinery? It's not a refinery, is it? I don't know what it's called, but a bronze place where they actually do like big castings of bronze statues. And so anytime they were so expensive to make that anytime someone would buy the bronze statue, he would cast 2 of them. And so when the first one was sold, I think I got one. And then when the second one was sold, I think Corey got one. And then I think Ryan got one eventually. I'm not sure. Ryan, I don't know. I think Ryan has one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the coolest thing. It's like it's polished around the like logo on his chest and stuff. So the costume details are like slightly a different shade of bronze. Like the way Claiborne Moore did it is like super cool.
That's awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. And then I unfortunately with Walking Dead and Invincible, those were coming out when I was quite broke. And so most of that original art was like scattered to the winds and sold to other people. And so I don't have a lot of the early stuff, but some of the later stuff, I have some really cool, various pieces. I have, I think most of the Ultimate Collection wraparounds by Ryan.
Yeah.
Like I have those pieces. And then like Ryan gave me the entirety of Invincible Zero as a gift. So I have all those pages, and that stuff's really cool. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff along the way that I was able to pick up.
Awesome,
man. So we're running out of time. Yeah. We're running short. We've been ever since like you kind of were like, oh hey, check out Corey Walker's blog and see what that's about. Like there's some stuff that's on there, Robert, and like he's drawing, like he drew Terra. We saw Marky. We saw King Immortal. Is there anything cool like that we should expect with that, or? I don't know what kind of answer I'm expecting.
Maybe he's
I
just
think
drunk.
one of those posts say this is unrelated to what I'm working on. So I don't know why you would think they're related to anything at all. I mean, he's clearly saying in plain text that these are just things he's doing for fun.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Couple, I got a couple quick ones then.
Sure.
Titan holding Gary upside down, is that a reference to Gary in the comics, or is that coincidence?
I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Okay, wasn't sure. That's an answer. What about who called Cecil during that machine head fight? Because they got an anonymous call, and so that we went back and forth. And I'm like, oh, it was definitely Titan because he wanted to make sure. And they're like, no, it was Omni-Man because he wanted to make sure that Mark got help, and we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, you guys are putting me on the spot. I'm pretty sure it was Omni-Man, but I would have to. I don't know. I would have to either watch it again or go back into my notes or not be an idiot that forgets everything.
That's all right.
That would make the most amount of sense because Titan wouldn't have Cecil's
that's
number.
What we decided.
Yeah.
That I think that's what it was.
Because like Omni-Man's not there to help, but because he's basically sizing. I mean, the thing that he's doing there is he's trying to teach Mark a lesson, and he's also trying to size up the new Guardians to see if they're worthy of him murdering them. And, he decides that it's not worth his time.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that too.
But I think the idea is that at some point during that, he was like, should probably call Cecil here.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Don't get mad, but you know the rules. And I got to ask, Invincible is a hit now, and it's doing very well. I mean, how's the live action movie coming along? I gotta ask.
Weeks ago when you asked me this last.
It was like 3 weeks ago.
You know the rules. It'll come again every time we talk.
Things are progressing at a pace.
There we go.
That is measurable.
So I ask Tommy.
I promise that when there is something to report, it will be reported.
All right.
And we are all very excited, and things are continuing. There's not any kind of, there's not any kind of stalling or anything going on. It's just a slow process.
Yeah.
Can I ask if the conversation regarding people not looking up was ever thrown out there to be included in the show, or?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't appeared yet, but there's still time.
Still time. Cool. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, there are little things like that maybe slip through the cracks on season one that aren't necessarily things that doesn't mean they're not going to show up. I mean, these things are I think important to the life of the show.
And I mean, that conversation deals heavily with a certain love triangle that we might get more involved in. So I think that can still apply pretty easily.
I mean, if we follow that storyline, we could do something completely different.
Exactly. That's right. Rex is still out there.
Before we wrap up, I mean, Firepower is out there. The Walking Dead Deluxe is out there.
Walking Dead Deluxe is a ton of fun. That's really cool.
It's great. And I will say, like, I've been so Invincible, like my mindset has been wrapped around Invincible for the past month and a half, 2 months. And like it just hit me like yesterday or today, like next month, the end of all things Oblivion song.
Oh my God, that's next month?
Last 6 issues, and I cannot fucking wait. So If you're listening and you have not read Oblivion Song, please catch up on the first 30 issues. We'll be talking about that on the Oblivion Song podcast. But I cannot wait for the ending of that. Like, it's going to be insane.
And I'll have to come on to that podcast for the last for the last issue.
Oh boy,
that's the deal. I agreed to do that.
That was the deal.
You made that deal like 4 years ago.
That was like almost 5 years ago.
I don't know. It was right after the comic came out. So it was like 2018 or
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. I mean, we didn't say it, but it's pretty obvious we absolutely love the show. All the changes were brilliant. We couldn't get enough of it. Week to week was such a great idea. We've been, on such a high for 2 months as we've been experiencing this and sharing it with the world and getting to talk about it every week again at length. Like, this has been such a blast, and we can't wait. I mean, we'll be patient. We know animation takes a long time. Can't wait for seasons 2 and 3. And you guys assembled such an awesome team, from the art the music, I mean, everything about it, everything. I mean, the writing, you guys did such a good job, and we couldn't be more proud of, this thing that we talk about and, share with other people, to have this now in our, arsenal to hand out and pass out to everybody. So thank you again. And thanks to everybody that worked on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you. But let me just say to the fan base, like the first season is where you work the kinks out. So like we've learned so much over the course of the first season that we're going to be hitting the ground running and coming out with all kinds of amazing stuff. And things will just continue to improve from here as we hone our craft on this show. So as much as you liked season 1, I can almost guarantee that season 2 and season 3 and hopefully beyond will be exceeding what we were able to accomplish with season 1. So I could not be more excited about what we're going to be doing.
Awesome.
Us too.
All right. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, we need to talk.
You lied to me.
All right, welcome back. We are now about to jump into our episode recap for the season finale. Thanks again, obviously, to Robert Kirkman. That was a blast. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. It was so much fun.
That was an amazing time. It was so much
good.
fun. And you guys could tell, like, it was so much fun.
Yeah. I think Wyatt said it on Twitter. Like, there's not a better way to like wrap up after the finale. We're hyped on the finale. We just got announced season 2 and 3, and then we get to sit down and have that conversation. It was a blast.
Yeah.
All right. Before we hit the episode 8 recap, I wanted to bring up a couple emails. This one comes from, let's see, Marcus Hutchins. You know what? Actually, Bill, I want you to go first before I read Marcos.
Okay. Are you sure you're recording, Ryan?
Yes, I'm definitely recording.
I thought the same thing when he said that.
Really?
When you were like, actually, I thought you were going to be like, no, you're not recording.
No, this time I am. Definitely recording.
Right, gotcha. All right. So I have one from Brian here.
Yep.
Hey guys, long time, first time. I like it. I'm loving the animated show, but even more, I'm loving watching the fandom explode. I'm seeing way more tweets and memes about the show and the comic. The subreddit went from 5,000 subscribers to 30,000 in a month. That's insane. And there's at least 2 other podcasts about the show. In parentheses, you guys are still my favorite, of course. What a time to be a fan. I was texting my friend after we both finished 7 about how nuts episode 8 is going to be. And I jokingly at first said, what if Kirkman twists it and has Mark join him? I'm sure this won't happen. Excuse me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized the show pretty much cannot lose me. They've made some pretty substantial changes. Some had me concerned at first, but all of them have worked out great, if not better than the source material. Top example, Debbie's growing suspicion of Nolan felt like it would detract from the season's climax. We all talked about that.
Yeah.
But it has played out amazingly, and I'm sorry for ever doubting the show's writers. I was curious to hear your overall thoughts on the changes from book to show, and what you feel worked and what, if anything, didn't. Congratulations on 100 episodes. Keep up the great work. And when are they announcing season 2 already? Time travel. They did. Love Brian, who is on Twitter. He's at Invincible.
Yeah.
So he's very active on Twitter as well.
Now I'm just wondering, like, when the heck are they going to announce season 4?
I know, right? It's never good enough for us. But so specifically, he wanted to know what our overall thoughts were on the changes from book to show, what we liked, what we didn't like, what worked, what didn't work.
I mean, we talked about it during the Kirkman interview too. All the character changes, Amber, Debbie, and Damien Darkblood, all of them. Like, I think that's the biggest thing for me, was just the character growth from like how much more that they added.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Go ahead, Ryan. You can go first.
I was going to say, obviously, I agree with those. I also really liked the way they truncated hardcover volume 2 and inserted it into hardcover volume 1. So instead of Mark, dealing with the teacher and the bombs and like that kind of stuff, it was him dealing with, the Flaxens and them coming, the way they put that into one episode, or how they fleshed out Titan to be like his own episode, and, the multiple appearances that he had combined into one episode. Like the way they weaved Rudy's and Robot's story through the entire season and made it perfectly align with bringing Immortal back, like that kind of stuff I absolutely loved.
Excuse me. Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. Like if you have this much show, right? Instead of doing, gets his powers, then there's the teacher with the bombs, then there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this to make this. They like totally took things out. They were able to take things out of the show entirely, which I love, because the things they took out are the things that I thought were like super boring and unnecessary. And then they actually expanded on things that they didn't have to.
That you didn't know you wanted.
And it still filled this amount of space. So they totally rearranged it wasn't just like, okay, page 1 of the comic, like scene 1 of the show. Like they could have literally done that, but they did such an amazing job reworking it all. Mm-hmm. I don't really think there's anything that didn't work. Like, to be completely honest, I thought I wasn't going to like William being gay the entire time, because I liked the relationship that he and Eve had. And then when he comes out of the closet and saying, oh yeah, I'm gay. And then Eve's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, there's actually a moment in episode 8 where they would have started that relationship, and they kind of do. Like they like
smirk at each other for a second.
They become friends. They become like friends. Like that's where they like, okay, we're friends now. But that's where they actually started to kind of like date. But I like William. I like William. And I think that this time that we live in, it's like, it makes sense for him to be out, and openly gay the entire time. So do you guys think anything didn't work? Like if you were to like really pull it apart in terms of changes?
Yeah. I think it's just comparing. There are certain things, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it, in our previous review recaps and reviews. But there are certain things that I liked better in the comic. Doesn't mean I didn't like it in the show. There are things that I like better in the show But
you don't think the comic is bad,
right? And I think that like it's okay to like this more in the show, and it's okay to like this more in the comic. It doesn't mean that you hate the comic or that you hated the show. Like it goes both ways, right? Like, so
I've got one.
I don't think that there's anything that I would say was bad in the show. So no, I don't think anything there or anything that was bad in the comic. Like I like both versions.
I'd have to think about it more. And again, we've talked about this at length, and I don't understand the hate that Amber's getting. So this has nothing to do with that. But I would have liked to have seen more happy moments between Mark and Amber. And we talked a little bit about that, because it did go from one episode, they just start dating. And the next episode, it's been 3 months, and they're starting a little bit of a tumultuous whatever relationship. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that in between. But again, it's not that necessarily a complaint. It's just something I would have liked to have seen.
We can dig into it, but when you brought up the hate that Amber is getting, like, I mean, there's obviously a point of going overboard, and again, we'll get into it when we get to there later. But I think you're supposed to feel a certain way. I think the writers want you to feel a certain way because they know that, everybody knows, even people that haven't read the comic, that eventually Invincible and Eve are supposed to be together. And I feel like you're supposed to kind of feel that at the end of this episode. But we'll get to it. Everybody that I know that hasn't read the comics is like, oh, where did that come from? Like, oh, come on, just be with Eve.
They do hint at it in like episode 3 with Eve going out at the window, the way and then in a later episode before she leaves, the moment that she has with Mark. So yeah, they are kind of hinting at it and setting that base relationship up.
It makes more sense for Eve and Mark to have a really strong friendship before they start a really strong romantic relationship, because, like, I mean, Eve is a rebound. Pretty much, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's important to have like a strong relationship with somebody before, because Amber, here's the thing, guys, like, I don't think people relate to Amber and are mad at her being mad at Mark for really anything when she dumped him because of the whole Rhiannon scene, because she knew that he was there and she still flipped out about it and stuff like that. But what people need to know or think about is that this isn't the real world. This is a world where superheroes are not like, they're not like gods. You know what I mean? Like, being a superhero does not give you an excuse to be a dick to the person you are in a relationship with. Like,
And
This
at the
is
end
the
of the
point,
day,
people.
even
This
still,
is
Bill,
the point.
and at the end of the day, she could still not be okay with it, even if they were. Like, she has the right to be like,
Yeah, like,
I don't really want to deal with this anymore.
It's your fucking job. You're choosing to do this stuff, but you're also choosing to be with me. So either make the time for me or don't. And if you're gonna risk your life, don't fucking lie to me. Like, she got mad at Mark during that reanimate scene in episode 6, right? 6?
Yes.
Because she fucking lied to him. She said, you're a lying piece of shit. I know that you were right over there. Like, she just wanted him to come clean, and he couldn't because he thought that he was
not
above
the reason,
it all.
though. Like, that was part of the reason, but it was
reason.
No, she also said, are you going to make time for me? I am important to you. Why haven't you made time for me? So that's where I think people are. And again, I love Amber. I think Amber might be my favorite character of the season, but at the same time, I can understand both sides of this argument. And again, I think the writers want to spark this conversation, right? I don't think that people have to be like, you're not allowed to be against Amber. And I don't think it's right for people to be like, oh, Amber's a fucking bitch. Like, no, like it's okay to find a middle ground. Like, don't go so extreme one way or the other. But yeah, I can see where people are coming from, where it's like, yeah, like, Amber, you got to understand, like, sure, it's in a world of superheroes, and maybe he should have told you because it is a common thing. But at the same time, the whole, like, he is still risking his life. Like, he's getting his ass kicked in every episode. And so I understood that. The end of this episode, and again, we'll get to it.
Yeah. All right.
We'll get to it.
This is going to touch a little bit on that, but Marcus Hutchins from Spokane, Washington wrote in. He says, "Hey guys, love the podcast, fellow KFBF and Invincible superfan. I loved the series since the first Ultimate Collection and ravenously read every single issue from that point. Just like you guys, I've been loving the TV series, and one of my favorite things about it is how they've expanded some character storylines and condensed others." Some characters and storylines. What have been each of your favorite things that they both expanded and condensed, which we've just talked about a little bit? For Marcus, some of his favorite expansions have been Mark's training and interactions with Nolan, character arcs for all the female leads, Debbie, Amber, and Eve, and all the new things that Cecil throws at Nolan in episode 7. Some of my favorite things that the show has condensed or abbreviated are the Flaxen encounters, D.A. Sinclair and the Reaniman, Robot's transition to Rudy, and then Mark's early fights against minor villains. I think the pacing of the first season was fantastic, and I can't wait to see how they adapt the comic timeline for season 2. I would love for season 2 to include storylines all the way up to issue 50. What about you guys? Keep up the great work. Can't wait for episode 8 and podcast 100. Marcus Hutchins from Spokane, Washington. And I got to say that Doug also wrote an email in asking us a very similar question about some of our favorite changes and expansions and all that kind of stuff. And we've covered it a little bit with Brian's question as well. So yeah, thanks. And as far as the question on where we think season 2 might go, we got a lot to say about that, and we're going to have more episodes to talk about all that. But right now, it's all about the season finale, episode 8 of Invincible. We're here. We've made it. TJ, it's your lead, man. You're starting us off with this one.
All right. Invincible season 1 finale, episode 8, Where I Come From. So it opens up. Do
you want to get quick quick impressions right off the bat?
Sure.
Go ahead, Ryan. You can go first.
Oh, I mean, we're going to talk about it and gush about it a lot right here. I loved it. I loved the parallels to the comics. I mean, this was the episode where I found myself doing like pointing at the TV screen and be like, holy shit, that's that panel from the comic. And there were so many of those moments. And whereas other other episodes has had it, this one nailed it so many times and it was pulled right from the comic. And then certain things, the way they expanded on it, Stephen Yeun, man, J.K. Simmons, the voice acting blew me away. I can't believe how emotional it was for things that we have read countless times, and it still hit us. The new things that they've added, I can't wait to talk about it in depth with you guys. Bill?
I was really trying to think about what were some of the best season finales I've watched. And this is probably my favorite. Like, I think that it is so consistent in that it's not like normally the penultimate episode is like the big one, right?
Like with
and
Game of
then
Thrones.
yeah, and then all of the season finale is just like kind of like what the second half of this episode was. But even the second half of this episode, it was gut wrenching and emotional, and like you felt, I felt so much during this episode, and talking to some of the people, my other friends that watch it, like I was like, did you ever think that you'd be this emotional watching a cartoon?
Yeah.
And it finally happened. Like you forgot you were watching an hour-long animated show. Like remember when it first started, we were like, wow, this is an hour. Like I feel weird. What do I like? How do I do?
I know,
like,
right?
How do I react? And this, I could not take my eyes off the screen. I cried. I fucking laughed. I gasped. Like it was fucking perfect. Like anyone that gave it anything less than a 10 out of a 10 is out of their freaking mind.
This was one that we actually got to watch together, thankfully, and it was just great. Like we would just keep glancing at each other, like with like this look of like shock and kind of disgust at times. Like we can't believe this is happening. The whole thing was very surreal, and I remember saying that after episode 1, and that was the last time I felt like this. All these episodes have been great, but episode 1 was surreal because it's like we're seeing this thing come to life that we know so well. And it was so good, and it was hitting on so many levels that it just was crazy. TJ?
I mean, we keep saying it, that like I knew what was coming in the finale. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I had no fucking idea what actually, you know what I mean? Like, same thing with episode 7. You go into each episode thinking, I've read the comics, I know how this is going to play out. And even though it does play out similar, like the overall arching story, but it plays out nothing like what you're expecting. Like my jaw was still on the ground the whole time. I couldn't believe. I feel like Invincible fans are like, you have to read the comic. It's so crazy, and like look at this art, look at like this Battle Beast guy and ripping people in half, and like how crazy it is. It's so bloody. They had to like kind of up their game a little bit, and holy shit, they upped their game for this finale. Like it was brutal. It was some parts were like really difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Like I'll bring it up during.
We have something to talk about.
Stories. But yeah, of course I loved it, and it was always exceeding my expectations.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Take it away, TJ. Opening shot. It's just grass. Just grass. Which is funny because
some grass, and you can hear.
I've watched it several times, and I remember the second time I watched it, I thought my TV was still paused, and I was like, "Wait,
because it's a while."
It's a while, and I love that because it makes you question for a second, and then it just slowly starts to rain blood. It's like what?
Starts to rain blood, and then in the background you see the Immortal's body hit the ground, and then up close, his severed head.
Crazy.
Fucking crazy. And then the camera doesn't even change. It just points upward, which was awesome. And you see Mark and Nolan in the sky. Right where we left off in episode 7, Omni-Man says, Mark, we need to talk. Mark, this was nuts. Mark immediately says no and attacks Omni-Man and says, something is controlling you. Let my dad go. Dad, tell me how to stop it.
I loved it. Omni-Man, like Nolan's face in this moment, because they're flying and you just see like Nolan's face and the way they had it framed, and he's just staring at him just like
super stoic.
No, just,
did you guys
like he knows nothing can phase him, nothing can hurt him. He's just like, come on.
I talked about this throughout the season about how one of my favorite things, and we talked about it with Kirkman too, is the brainwashing thing. Like War Woman saying it in the first episode, and people thinking, oh, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason.
Maybe
and
robots
for it to start
connected.
out like this, like perfect.
What was that, Bill?
I was gonna say, did you guys notice how episode 7 was obviously from Nolan's perspective? Like the entire thing, even when Mark showed up, it felt very much like Nolan's episode. And when this one started, Nolan was standing there and he's like, we need to talk, and the blood is dripping from him, but it's like Mark focusing on it, and it's like a heartbeat fading, and it instantly changes the perspective, and you're like, I'm as confused as Mark is right now. Like they did such a good job of like continuing the entire thing, but completely swapping your mind, your perspective on it. It was fucking great.
Good call.
So Invincible tries to attack him. Omni-Man just grabs him pretty immediately and just throws him to the side. And he says, Mark, it's me. It's just me. And this isn't how I wanted to do this, but it's time you know where you come from.
I felt like this was within like 2 minutes, and it was like, oh, it's already doing the flashback. Like it felt really fast, and he was talking quickly, and things were on the screen. I'm like, slow down.
Slow down.
Especially some of these scenes.
Yeah, when he was like talking about how long they live and stuff like that, I was like, nah, no. Go ahead, TJ. Sorry.
So the flashback, he says, in order for our people to reach their full potential, we had to remove the weak from our society. Then it shows Viltrumites killing other Viltrumites. Nolan says that the war cut their population in half, but it was so strong by that point that it just grew and became like the greatest empire in the galaxy.
I like how he's like, it became the only empire.
They voted to make it the only empire in the galaxy.
That was it.
So good. And
I
then
I think it's worth noting that Nolan also states, and you were maybe going to say this, that he says that happened way before I was
before
born.
he was even born.
Yeah. So like
it's
that,
interesting.
That happened a really long time ago. So that's not like a new thing. Like the Viltrum Empire that Nolan knows,
it was a way of life,
is the one that like everyone is the strongest already. Like they don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Then that means the three characters that we saw during the fighting are three characters that are much older than Nolan. But again,
and we're
when you live for thousands of years, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like what's a couple thousand years older, you know?
Nolan says, when I became of age, I joined the war effort. We took over thousands of planets, but then their forces were stretched thin and their expansion stopped. They decided to send one officer to each planet that they were targeting so that they could weaken it on their own to prepare it for an easier takeover.
Mm-hmm. In this flashback scene, you also get Alan's people.
With a little can slot.
So to say, like, you also get a lot of nods to the comic.
Dude, that panel with the blue aliens.
With the thing through his chest.
That was ripped right from the comic.
Same panel. Yep, same panel. So cool.
We see certain characters that, we learn more about later on in the comic. Like
we could say names. Holy shit! Yeah. We see Conquest. We see Thresher. We see General Craig. We see them before. They look a little different than they do in the comic because this is many years ago. But they looked awesome. Thresher looked awesome. Like
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting these two mixed up. Later on in the comic, there is a woman who is all green, an all green alien. What's her name?
She's the one with the staff, right?
Oh,
no, she's
Universa?
all green.
Yeah.
No, green. She's green.
Universa's all green, first of all.
Universa's all green.
Is she? That's not who I'm thinking of.
I don't know then, man.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
She's not. You're not thinking of the princess from Galderia, are you? Zach's girlfriend?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know. Okay. It doesn't matter. Moving on. So we see Thresher, we see Conquest, we see the Unopans, which is Alan the Alien.
Alan's race, yep.
So it gets back to Mark and Nolan, and Nolan says, now we need to get Earth ready to join the Viltrum Empire. And I love that he said it like that, because it's like, we just need to get them ready to join, join our little club.
Bill, you were saying after we watched it, like how this entire time is just an escalation of Nolan. The way they wrote this was so well done. Like Nolan's like, hey, like we just need to do this thing. You know what I mean? We're going to stop some people, get them ready. If they don't want to, they don't, I mean, like, and Mark's the one freaking out. And then Nolan's like slowly losing his temper. He just, and he gets shorter and shorter to the point where he's just like, why? He just can't.
You get like, it's really fucking cool because throughout the entire season, the whole season, you don't hear Nolan raise his voice at all until the last 3 minutes of him being in this episode. And it hits so hard, especially when you realize it. Like, seriously, watch it again. And you're like, even with him arguing with Mark, he's like, Mark, this is a good thing, bud.
Yeah.
Like you're a Viltrumite. Help me conquer
We will
Earth.
make Earth better. This is good.
Dude, and the jet scene that comes up, he's like, oh, where's that other jet at?
We're gonna get to it.
Yeah, I know, but like, I like, seriously, watch it again if you haven't watched it 5 times. Watch it 6 times, and just listen to Nolan's voice and how consistent it is. And J.K. Simmons, it's like you can tell he's like, all right, now fly off the hook, and now he's fucking J.K. Simmons from Whiplash, and it's scary as fuck. All right, go ahead.
So Mark says, you lied to me. And he says, Nolan says, I couldn't tell you everything, not until I knew that you were a Viltrumite. Mm-hmm. And Invincible's crying, and he says, it doesn't make any sense. You love me. You love Mom. And Nolan explains, like, do you understand how long we live? He says, and this is different from the comic, and I loved this. Mm-hmm. He says, you're half Viltrumite, but our blood is so pure that you're practically full Viltrumite. I love that.
So I forgot some of the words. I intentionally didn't want to reread it. I actually skimmed it today, and that is in the comic. And a lot more than I thought is in the comic. Like, rereading, I'm like, holy shit! Like, there is a lot.
Over the past 5 years, have we talked? How much have we talked in Super Fight about he's only half Viltrumite? He's only half Viltrumite. We've never talked about that. We never bring it up. So I feel like that's something that was like kind of a big miss on our part.
Well,
talk about it.
When it's in Super Fight, when we play it with that, saying that somebody's half Viltrumite means that they have all the powers of a Viltrumite, as if they were a full Viltrumite. Like, so if it's Adam Eve, who's also a half Viltrumite, that means she's got both. You know what I mean? I never took it as a negative that they're half.
I feel like we've talked about Mark in that sense too, though. I don't think we've ever thought of Mark as a full Viltrumite.
I don't know.
I mean, he's not. He's not.
But he kind of is.
I mean, I guess he kind of is. So there's like he maybe in this kind of standard, he's like literally 1% human and then 99% Viltrumite in turn, because it's so pure DNA.
Nolan says, you're going to live for thousands of years. Everyone you love, everyone you know will die. Everyone you know and love will be gone before you even look 30.
Yeah.
And
Nolan says, go ahead.
He says, I don't want that for you. And he looks kind of sad.
I know. He actually understands, he
little bits.
Like, there's a moment there, like, why wouldn't Nolan want that for him? You know what I mean? Like, he knows none of these people care. He knows Debbie's going to die. Empathy. It's empathy. He doesn't want his son to have to feel those feelings, but you know what I mean? Like, that's great. That is great.
Because she's feeling it.
But because him saying that is not the same Nolan at the end of the episode or halfway.
Right.
Nolan says, listen, we can help Earth. We can give them medical technology. We can stop wars. We can stop hunger. And he's like, I do love your mother. But she's more like a pet to me.
And it's funny because
that's Invincible.
You hear like a ringing. Yeah. You know, there's like an audio cue, and you hear this ringing, and it like zooms in on Mark, and it's like, that was the moment where it was like, if Nolan ever had a chance of convincing him, like, nope,
he just lost it.
Funny story.
Go ahead.
Yeah, funny story. I told this off air too, so I don't think it's in this episode. But when Riker, my 10-year-old, was watching this episode with us, you know, the train scene, like everything that was crazy, he just was like, "Oh wow, that's cool." When Nolan said that, when he said, "I love your mother, but more like a pet," his mouth dropped. He was like, and he looked at me. He was like, and then to Liz, my wife, like that. And I was like, bro, I'm not Nolan. Like, I love your mom. All right, dude. It was so like, yeah. Go on, TJ.
And we can go past it quicker if it's coming up. But when he's talking about how long they live, this wasn't the point. No, he does bring it up later. But when they get into it, just him saying
when he's screaming, they talk about it.
When he says, "You don't even know me." I don't remember when that moment was, but yeah, I love that too.
It's in Chicago right before he headbutts him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's saying that his mother was more like a pet to him, sets Invincible off. He attacks Nolan and says, like, Like this is my home. This is where I grew up. I don't give a shit about Viltrum. This is my home, and I won't let you destroy it. And Nolan says,
I don't care if I live a million fucking years.
I don't give a shit about Viltrum. I don't care if I live to be a million fucking years.
Oh, Steven, oh
my God. My home, and I won't let you destroy it.
Fucking this, dude. Jesus.
Whew. And he's like,
Nolan says, go ahead. Nolan says, you don't know what you're saying. I can't let you interfere. And Mark wipes it. This part, the more I watch it, became more meaningful to me.
It's this.
Yeah.
No, he wipes his tears first and says,
I know
and
exactly
raises his fist and he says, I know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Think about what Mark is feeling in this moment. Now he's raising his fists to his father, who he grew up with. He loved so much. He was the perfect father, and he idolized him so much. And he's raising his fist to him. Not only is he raising his fist to a father who he loves, but he's also raising his fist to the most powerful person.
He knows what he's doing
on Earth.
He knows
that's got to be like. But to have that emotion and fear at the same time, I'll tell you right now, I'll beat the shit out of my father right now. You know what I mean? But I would still be scared to raise my hands to him. Like my dad's an old man, you know, I think I could take him, but I'd still be terrified to raise my fist to him. You know what I mean? So there's that piece of he's your father. You know what I mean? There's a part of you who was always kind of scared of your dad.
And he also just literally cut someone in half with his bare hands.
Yeah. So I right now,
I'll beat the shit out of my father.
I'm gonna make Ryan. I'm gonna make Ryan cry right now. Okay.
God.
Ryan, he cries, emotional. We all do, but this might get to you, Ryan.
All right.
People have been saying and making fun of Mark being a punching bag, and they're not wrong in this first season at all. And how he's very invincible. Like that's something Alan said. And this moment right here. And this entire fight is what makes Mark invincible. It's not his physical abilities. It is his spirit that is invincible.
There you go.
And that is when Cecil says to him, I know. Ryan, are you?
I'm trying not to think about it.
Yeah. And that it kind of, when people were making fun of it, and I was and when Cecil said that was something you did, kid, I was like, holy fuck. I'm like, he's not it's who he is that's invincible. Not his physical ability or his ability as a hero, but it's just he won't stop. If he thinks that he's going to die, he won't stop. And that his courage is an immovable object.
100
TJ.
episodes, Bill, and you're pulling this shit out. Well done.
Yeah.
Good job.
Pretty good, right?
You just completely added another layer to the titular character, the name of the entire comic. Yeah,
I know.
I like it. No, I get it. I like it.
But it inspired me because so many people were talking about how he's not invincible, and I'm like, I don't think that's the point in this show right now. You know?
Yeah.
Go on, TJ.
Well done.
Top that shit.
No comment. Yeah, so he raises his fist to his father. He says, I know exactly what I'm doing. And it cuts to Nolan's face, and Nolan looks down, defeated, and then looks up and says, so be it. And flies forward, and then the fucking carnage begins. So
Mark doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't really get that many hits in. He's immediately slammed to the ground in a crater, The
entire time that Nolan is fighting, Mark, his eyes are bloodshot, and I love that.
Yeah,
I love
from the Immortal.
From Immortal.
Yeah.
It just adds another layer to the crazy.
Crazier, and it's so sick.
It dehumanizes him just a little bit more to throw him off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he punches him to the ground. Invincible tries to fly away. He grabs him by the leg and slams him down. And when he does, Invincible, or Steven Yeun, makes this noise that's involuntary, that makes me feel for him, like a squeak, and
it's a squeak. It's when he grabs his arm and really lifts him up, and he's like, ah.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Better than that. Better stuff than that.
Yeah, so good. So Omni-Man throws him and he just goes flying for miles, and then floating camera bots come down, and that came from Cecil.
Yep.
And they're watching everything. Cecil is watching it at the government with Debbie.
Yep. And he's like, I'm sorry you had to hear all that.
Yeah. So they're watching everything that's happening.
Yeah.
We see the Guardians, and they're watching the same feed that Cecil is seeing, at the Pentagon, under the same cameras, and they want to go help Mark. But Rudy says it's best to stay out of it for now. Eve shows up at the base, and they kind of bring her up to speed on what's going on. Rudy says in order for Mark to survive this, he's going to need to live up to his name and be invincible.
Title card.
Final title card. So the bloodiest one, and worth what a payoff.
Dude, people were obviously after a couple weeks, people were posting oh, is this what it's going to look like at the end? So I had seen really bloody versions of it and what it could look like. It still hit. Because it was just the right amount to be like a punch, where it was just bam, this big streak across it, and it made it look like Invincible was just in red and the rest was black. It had a punch to it, and I loved it. And of course the score, or the theme playing over it, and just this really epic, tone. It was great.
Back in the sky, Mark is just barreling through the air, and I love this too. How, in order to regain himself, he grabs his legs, he focuses his eye contact, and is able to spin himself around and regain control. All right, Oliver, I'm talking.
And then he's standing upright, right? And as he balances himself, no one's coming at him, and he just barely remember that part? I
feel like I remember you
yeah, I was I was
ducking.
Yep.
So they keep fighting, and jets show up, and they're sent by Cecil. Nolan says, look what they need to mimic just a fraction of our power. Nolan throws Mark to the ground and turns to deal with the jets. They blast him.
I don't know if it's this one or the next time they shoot at him, but might be my favorite animation of this episode. Seeing the missiles fly through as he weaves through them, that was incredible. I love that moment.
That's actually later, but in the bonus features, it actually calls out. I didn't write it down, but it's a specific kind of animation style.
Yeah, it was a technique. It was named after,
becoming very popular, and it was awesome the way it was done. But that's later. Nolan. So he goes after the jets. They blast him, but it doesn't do anything to him. Nolan flies through, straight through one of the jets, and the pilot deploys and is falling to the ground. Invincible flies up and saves him. He puts him on the ground, and the pilot says, "Very generic."
I'm sorry.
All right, I don't know how
in
detail you want me to go.
And that's fine.
I just need to say really quickly that this part was way more intense
than it.
It was a mid-sky save.
We're gonna go so deep.
And the guy was like, my chute's not deploying, and Invincible's like, you won't need it. And then all of a sudden it fucking deploys, and he's still falling. It was just really well done. I don't want to take away from that, because that's really excellent.
They didn't need to have Mark get tangled up in the chute. You know what I mean? But that extra layer of stress, you know what I mean? It made it so it wasn't Mark just easily saved this guy. He struggled to save this guy for this to happen,
So he hits the ground, and he's like, Invincible, thank you so much. Thank you for saving my life. I didn't think I was going to live through that. And then just the sound alone of Nolan landing behind him was fucking terrifying.
Yes.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
What would you do, guys? Would you just try running?
It doesn't show his face. It just shows.
It just shows his chest.
Oh my gosh. Perfect directing, perfect sound editing. It was terrifying. So he's like, you could have killed him. Invincible says you could have killed him. And he goes, yeah, but you saved him. And look how much effort it took. For someone that doesn't even matter, he reaches out and grabs the pilot's head and just pops it like a grape. Blood all over it.
You know what Nolan could have done too, which I think would have been cool, if he just flicked him in the forehead, like a Viltrumite flick. But you know what? I want to see a Viltrumite flick, Robert Kirkman. Somewhere I want to see them flick someone so hard and they just get obliterated.
That's when Nolan's like, now where is that other one?
And then just takes off. When he reached forward, so again, like I talked about this a little bit at the Kirkman episode too. Like I watched it a second time, like a fifth time with my mother, and at this point where he reached out and popped his head, my mom goes, "Oh my God." And then she turned to me and she's like, "This is tough to watch." She's like, "Somebody needs to get this guy."
This is a cartoon, guys. This is it's so heavy. It's so heavy, and I love the gore in it. I love it.
Yeah.
He pops the guy's head.
Yeah, I gotta find my spot.
He goes and flies the other.
So he says, "Where's the other one?" He takes off and tries to take out the other jet, and Mark stops him. But Ryan, like you said before, this is the part where he's just kind of like weaving through, and he's just trying to get to the jet, and he's struggling a little bit, but he's gonna get there, right?
Yeah.
Right before he does, Mark barrels into him and stops him, and Nolan gets you can tell he's getting frustrated because
he's getting there.
He's starting to get very condescending, and he's like, "Oh, did seeing that man lose his life disturb you? Well, let's see how you handled this." And he punches him, and Invincible goes flying again.
And then we get several minutes, feels like several minutes of just life.
It's about 45 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. We get a good calm, calm before the storm of just everyday life in the city, in Chicago, and people getting off the subway and walking up to a hot dog stand and driving around, getting in their taxi. And then you just hear this boom in the distance and something goes through a building. And then there's an explosion. And then Mark just
another building
tears up the road.
Barreling all the way down the road, just rolling, and hitting people, hitting cars, hitting buildings all the way down the road. And he kind of regains himself. He looks up. "Oh my goodness, Oliver, you are just begging for attention." He looks up and he sees a building starting to fall. And he flies up and he catches the building from falling, and a woman slides out.
When he catches the building and there's that pause and then the glass shatters. That was awesome. That was really cool. A woman
falls out the window, and he grabs her by the arm. So he's holding the building with one arm and holding her with the other, has her hand, and the building comes tumbling down on them. Fuck. He picks himself up out of the rubble, still holding her hand, and the camera moves down, and the hand is attached to her fucking severed arm.
Mm-hmm.
She's not even there. It's just her arm.
Can we just... I again want to give kudos to Stephen Yeun, because the part where he's holding up the building and the little girl is crying, and he's like, "It's okay, don't be scared," and he officially now doesn't think that he's going to be able to save these people, and he's trying to calm this person down. I cannot believe that he's this good of a voice actor. I can't believe that he can emote this kind of fucking human transaction. It gets me. Watching it again, that's one little 10-second part, not even, that fucking gets me choked up again when he's like, "It's okay, don't be scared." Oh God. Yeah. Anyways, so fucking arm. Nolan comes down.
Nolan comes down and he says, he tells Invincible, "This is your fault. How many more people need to die? It's your stubbornness that kills."
He's not wrong. He's not
wrong.
And
there's a moment where it shows Invincible's face, and I feel like he's contemplating. And I feel like if he were to go the opposite way and join him, that would have been the moment to do it. You know what I mean? But he says, and again, he goes back to, the whole thing that Nolan says is, he says, "They don't matter, and you know that I'm right." And then Invincible says, "Does Mom's life matter?" And then Nolan says,
in this moment, it's cutting back and forth, right? Because Cecil is watching again with his orbs, and we see Debbie watching this too, and it shows her watch as Mark asks, "Well, what about Mom? Doesn't her life matter?" And then Nolan says something like, "In the grand scheme of things,
no."
And then it cuts back down to Debbie, and she's crying, and then she looks up with tears in her eyes, and it perfectly matches. Cuts to Mark with tears in his eyes, looking up in the same frame.
If it wasn't for Debbie, all of this would have been different. Because every time he's flipped out on his father, every time he said that he's not getting on board,
Yeah, it's because of his mom.
It's been because of his mother every single time. So again, Invincible flips out and attacks Nolan, and he actually kind of like gets a couple punches in.
Yeah, he gets a couple in.
I was feeling good about
Nolan.
it.
He catches Nolan by surprise, but once Nolan like realizes what's going on, he's like he like grabs him and punches him through the street and into the subway. And this, in my opinion, not even in my opinion, from what I've seen, is the most talked about scene. In the episode.
In the season.
This is what led to this is. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, obviously, but this is why Invincible was trending at number 1 for a while. Yeah. This is why Omni-Man was trending for a while. Like, this is insanity.
Before that happened, Nolan said, my time on Earth has been like a fraction of my entire life. And he gets right up into Mark's face. Is like, you don't know me. And that was killer.
Yeah, man.
Nolan was just not. He was.
This is a spec.
Not holding back.
Talks about it later, but you don't even know who I am. The amount of my life, like you don't know anything about me.
Yeah, he doesn't. Like, think about it. He fucking doesn't. Like, Mark is nothing.
Yeah.
Go on, TJ. Subway scene. Take us through it.
Okay, so he grabs Invincible by the back of the head and holds him up facing an oncoming subway train. And you're thinking, like, this isn't going to, I mean, they're Viltrumites, so it's not going to bother them, but that's not what it's about. And the subway just mauls through them. He says
something like, center. You know, maybe you don't understand. Maybe this will teach you, you know what I mean? Like, show you.
Yeah. It's about Invincible watching all of these people die in front of him. And it's the whole subway is going right down the center of them. And he's going through the subway, watching them all like, you know, explode into blood and guts and like all these people. Like you said, after he says, maybe this time you'll learn.
And he slams his foot into the ground to cause the subway to flip and cause more destruction. And then Mark is just sitting there. He falls to his feet, and Nolan drops him, and he's just covered in blood. So
Nolan continues to talk about how meaningless people are. It shows. So this part, in my opinion, was the craziest part. Even after the subway scene, it shows a little girl, a dead body of a little girl on the ground, and her father is under rubble and is reaching for his daughter, and Nolan just comes over and squashes him. Like, holy shit. Like, when I saw...
So Bo Pilgrim, longtime listener, wrote in a really great email and talked to us about, you know, like, is this too much? You know what I mean? Like, at what point is it a little too gratuitous? The amount of gore and guts and blood, and, you know, like, compared to the comic. And when gore happened in the comic, it was really impactful and meant a lot. Now in the show, I mean, we're seeing a lot of gore and blood, and they keep one-upping themselves. And with this episode, do you guys feel like it was a little too much? Was it a little too heavy-handed?
Again, I think you can make an argument both ways. My personal, like, the thing is, like, do we need to go that far? No, we don't need to go that far. But I mean, in a real life situation, I feel like it's kind of realistic. Again, do we need it? No. So again, you can make both arguments. It's insane, and it made me feel a certain way, and it made me feel like I didn't like it, but I liked it. You know what I mean? Like, I liked it because I didn't like it. You know what I mean?
And that's TJ. I was just going to say that, like, the point of it, the whole idea of gratuitous violence, when people say that, it means that it's there for the sake of it being there to get shock value. And this wasn't that. This evoked emotion from people and made them really despise Nolan. And, like, yeah, you could have stopped it at the end of the subway scene, but, like, they also didn't have to, you know, and it didn't make me, I never once said I didn't need to see that. Like, that was too much. You know what I mean?
Anybody that says to me, like, I didn't like that they put that in there, it was too much, I wouldn't even argue with them. but it's just my personal, like, I was okay with it. I loved it because it like hurt my soul.
Yeah.
It was tough to watch.
Both of you guys grew up watching gory movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never did. Yeah. I didn't watch gory movies or see anything like that, and I still don't really. But it probably bothered me more than it bothered you guys. I agree a little bit more with Bo than I think you guys. I'm still okay with it, but it was tough, especially the amount of children in this episode. And I agree that it's there to tell a story and to show something terrible. Was it necessary, like you're saying? No. I think we still would have gotten, a similar. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Would it have been as big online? Would it have gotten the reaction if it wasn't that bloody?
Guys, like
I guess not.
I commend the writers. I commend Amazon. I commend Robert Kirkman for going all out, because you shouldn't have to censor something. Mm-hmm. If you're in a public place, there are going to be children there. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I want to see kids die. I'm saying the complete opposite of that. But I'm also saying, like, it's kind of unfiltered. Like, it's unfiltered. If I were standing there, that the whole thing about Invincible is it's realism. If a superhero has superhuman strength, hyperrealism, and punches somebody, it's going to go through them. Like, that's what Invincible is about. And if you're in a city, there's going to be fucking tragedy, and that's what it is. It's
I'm just thinking about this now, and I'm just going to say this for anybody who maybe that didn't read the comic and didn't like that scene.
That's the thing, though. I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about.
Maybe it's not for you.
I'm thinking about certain scenes that happened in the 60s, and like those are incredibly gory. Those are incredibly gory.
Issue 60s, not 60. The year 60s, because that's how
it happened in the 60s.
I read that too. I'm like back in the
60s. There's a cover of Invincible that shows a character's face completely beat to crap and the character's eyeball slit open. Like, I mean, this show is gonna get.
There are things that happen in the comic that spark this very conversation. Like, did they need to do that? Yeah. Like, was it too much? Mm-hmm. Like, very controversial things.
Literally ripped in half. Like, it does get gory. It's weird.
I mean, there's more than that.
I know. I know. There are things that it's just weird seeing these moments too, because the comic wasn't like this so much.
It's because the comic wasn't moving. It was a fucking still picture.
Well, that too.
And it was still. Like, dude, the fact that it showed like first person perspective almost of Mark going through the subway, and then the camera changed and you got the profile of it and you see how bloody it is. I hate to do this. I'm going to use one example of what I think is I didn't need to see that. And this is someone coming from like, I love gore, like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Some of my favorite movies are like these crazy zombie movies with intestines and stuff. An example of gratuitous violence that didn't need to be there. Perfect example for me anyways, is in The Boys, another Amazon Prime show. There is a superhero that is riding a guy's face and is high on this drug, and because of her superhuman strength, squashes the guy's head under her. Like, she's sitting on this guy's face and squashes her head. To me, I was like, did that like need to fucking happen? Like, it felt like they were trying to get me, you know what I mean? And this is the complete opposite. I think if people feel that way about this show, they just don't like gore, because it's not the same kind of like shock value. Gotcha. Do you guys know what I mean? Like,
oh, I know what you mean. I don't know. I think that scene might be similar to some of these scenes, but again, it's all opinion and how we take gore and everything like that. But either way,
moving on.
Yep.
So Mark says, "I've seen you. You are happy here. You've saved people." And Nolan says, "Yeah, I was happy
for a time,
but I'm loyal to the Viltrum Empire." Mm-hmm. He says, "I'm loyal to the Viltrum Empire, not this pathetic excuse for a civilization." Mm-hmm. He punches Invincible again, and then carries Mark back to the sky and says he's going to burn the entire planet down. Mm-hmm. Mark tries to punch him. Pathetic.
He gets away from him.
He's like, yeah, he gets away from him, and then he punches Nolan, and he goes, "Please." And Nolan,
he winds up and like super punches Nolan right in the side of the face. And
Nolan doesn't even move. He doesn't even move.
Still not yelling. Still not yelling.
And this is when he tells him that he doesn't even know who he is, right?
Oh yeah, it might be here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he does. But Nolan flies around like punching him and then flying and then punching him and then flying like a pinball machine, just fucking him up even more, punching him through mountains, avalanches come down, like just fucking him up. It shows the Guardians, they're still watching everything, and then they're like, all right, we need to help. And they all start to take off. And Rudy is like, no, like Cecil told us to stay here. And Amanda walks up to him and says, remember, you're not a robot anymore.
That's great. Touches
and points to his chest for his heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
such a great line.
Yeah. The double meaning behind that is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And someone was like, well, he was never a robot. And I'm like, that's not the point. Like he was detached from humanity because he was in a tube. He was isolated. He didn't have any connection to
his name is Robot.
Humanity. Yeah. Like he is now a part of this, and he's not safe and he's not detached.
Yeah.
That's
so Nolan continues to fuck up Mark, and he's killing people in the process.
I loved seeing the cruise ship underwater. That was such a pull from the comics too. That looked just like that. But yeah, then the mountain, the avalanche, all that kind of stuff.
All the people running and
even him, I forgot the avalanche was in the comic, and the way Mark is buried in the snow and he finds him and pulls him up, and like how he's hanging there, and Mark's like, "I'll stop you." Like that was pulled from the comic, you know.
He says, what if people resist? And he says, then that's why we're here, to keep them from resisting.
This is when
he's starting to raise his voice.
Here's where it is.
Raise his voice. We convince them that they can be a part of something better or die. And he says, again, the voice. He's like, I won't let you. Like the voice. His voice acting. Oh my gosh. He says,
do you think he drank like a bunch of water and like squirted it out of his mouth when he's like, I won't let you? Like it sounds... I don't know how how they do it. I don't know how they fucking do it.
And then this is the part. So Nolan goes off and he goes, fine. He's got him on the side of a mountain.
This is it now.
Punching him. And he says, what's another 17 years? Slam. I can always start again. Slam. Make another kid. When he says make another kid, it's so like his face is
make
like
another kid.
Whatever. Fuck you. Make another kid. Whatever. Oh my gosh.
So I love that
the pounding into the mountain and it's causing earthquakes.
Yeah. The sound effect of the punching, every punch, and it's just shockwaves, and it pans out and you see the mountain, and you still hear the punch. And then like there's a punch that sounds a little weird. And then there's a punch that sounds like the baseball bat. And then another one that's the baseball bat, and then it cuts to that sound. Like I didn't catch that the first time, but there's like a solid 2 punches where it's not this punch sound effect, it's the bat sound effect.
Bat hitting, the ball.
Cool. So cool.
And we get a flashback, and you don't like it. That's how it. So like Ryan said, that's how it transitioned. Because you at first you're like holy shit, where am I? What is this? And you see Nolan, and you're like, holy shit, it's a flashback.
He got his teeth knocked out too. That's kind of important.
Yeah, he spit his teeth out. So flashback to Mark playing baseball back when he was younger. He's probably like, how old would you say Mark is here?
6.
Yeah. Super
maybe.
young.
Sure.
6, 7. Yeah.
Debbie is watching him. Nolan's on the side with his arms crossed, and he's like, I could be out doing other things. Like this is such a waste of time. And Debbie is in this moment again, and she talked about this, I think, in episode 5 or 6.
Yeah.
She's teaching him how to be human. She's like, look at his face. Look how happy he is. How can you not feel the same way? We made him. We're a part of him. How can you not feel that? And
when he's happy, we're happy,
Yeah, that's the part.
So Mark hits the ball, pop fly into the air, and he runs to the base. And he's running around the bases, and Debbie and Nolan are both cheering him on, and this is such a great moment because Debbie kind of looks, as she's cheering Mark on, she looks at Nolan like,
just to kind of
you're doing it, you're being human, like exactly, like she's so clearly teaching him how to be human, and we get that moment, like actually showing us her doing that, and I love that. I fucking love that scene.
Yeah.
And
so then he starts cheering too.
Yeah, he starts cheering too. he gets the home run, runs up to Nolan and says, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did, buddy. I saw it." Picks him up in the air, and it shows Mark's smiling face, and Mark's smiling face
Missing
turns
teeth.
bloody back in present moment as it transitions back to the present time. Nolan raises his fist to punch him again and resists, and he falls to the ground. He gets back up and he says, "Why this fucking voice?
Yeah, man.
Why did you make me do this?
Oh.
You'll outlast every insignificant being on this planet. What will you have after 500 years?" And when he first said, "You, Dad," and spits out blood, I could barely understand what he was saying, which I love.
You see a tear.
Fucking.
Oh, the
You,
tear
Dad.
comes first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it.
And
I
like
still have you. And I
Nolan's
choke up every
realization.
fucking time that happens.
Yeah. Nolan
looks-
it just hits Nolan and he just stares blankly. And then like
He looks at his bloody hands.
yeah.
And he tries really hard to keep from crying, and he's sniffling, and he's
And he goes,
getting angry, and then he starts to cry, and then he's getting angry, and he starts to cry.
Mark's like, "Dad?"
Yeah. And he flies up into the air, and we get the same shot that we get straight from the comic as he flies.
I love the effect of him burning through the atmosphere and the blood burning off, and then tears drift into space.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's a really cool, subtle thing because you don't see the tears on his face.
You do. It's very hard to see, though. You do see him.
You do?
Yeah, but like I said,
'cause
it's not as
you see
obvious.
the tear float
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, very good. Yeah.
That's it. That's what everybody has been waiting for, and what a payoff! Like, it was so well done, and it was so much crazier than what we were expecting.
And we knew it was gonna happen.
And
Yeah.
it was
fucking
insane that we were so surprised, and we knew it was going to happen.
It was like
insane.
the first time. It was like the first time I fucking watched it and read it. Like I can't. Oh my God!
Yeah.
There are so many shows and
And what-
TV and movies and stuff where
It
I'm
is
like,
one of the
the
craziest
book
things
did it better.
that's happened
The
on
comic did it
TV.
better.
Yeah.
The book did it better.
And
The
especially
and
like it's such an important scene. You're watching it and it's like, how are they going to do this? Like you can't beat that. And so you expect to watch and it's like, all right, yeah. So they did the thing. All right. But this was nothing like that.
edge of your seat, fucking crying, fucking gasping. Like, guys, this is how you do it. Like, this is
Anybody
this is
that
how
has
you do
made
it.
anybody that was on this show, making this show, how do you not tell the world what you're doing? Like, how do you keep this secret? Like, if like something were to happen where they like Skybound sent us the whole first season a year in advance, I wouldn't be able to like keep it to myself. I would be like, dude, like you don't even know. Like,
no, but
trust me,
really,
don't
we
even know.
would.
It's
So you can go ahead and send that season 2 whenever you want. We can keep it.
Yeah, no, we can absolutely.
We can absolutely keep it secret. No.
keep it secret.
Keep it safe. So the teardrop zooms in on the teardrop and it fades to white and then it opens back up and Mark is just splattered across the mountain and helicopters land.
Helicopter comes, medics. Multiple medics jump out of the helicopter and they rush towards Mark and they're helping him, and following the medics is Debbie, and she gets out of the helicopter.
I liked how this was all just
crying.
still images. It was just kind of like this, like to a heartbeat, but it was also to the helicopter blades.
Helicopter, yeah.
That was neat. I liked that.
Awesome.
I feel like it would have been jarring if it was like, all right, get into a frantic scene here, like to move fast. Let's get him on the stretcher. Come on, let's go. But instead, it's just this. Vroom,
we needed it. We need as like an audience
to decompress.
To
Catch our
decompress.
breath.
Like
Yeah. News hits, and we hear the news anchor describe what happened. We see reactions from everyone close to Mark. We see William still in his car watching on his phone, crying. We see Art watching in his shop, and he pours himself a drink. The Maulers are watching on their computer as they pour gasoline on everything in their lab, setting it all on fire. They walk out, just everything on fire, destroying all the evidence. But then government operatives show up and take them into custody. Amber is watching on her bed in her bedroom, just clutching her knees. The news anchor continues to talk about how shocking it is that Omni-Man turned evil. The death toll is incalculable. The teen team arrives and is trying to help put the city back together, like all the different areas back together, and is working around the clock.
That was cool.
To
I
do
like
that
seeing them
and
do
help
that.
people. The news anchor ends with saying, "For now, we can be thankful that the danger is behind us."
I really liked, the line of him talking about, and you mentioned it, TJ, but like him saying, how could the very man that swore to protect us against threats become the threat? That line was really good. Also, a fun pull from the comic was that like Nolan says, one punch from us and thousands die. And the Chiron or whatever on the bottom of the news screen says thousands, death toll, in the thousands or whatever. And it's just like, oh,
yeah. So I'm going to take over for the second half of the episode.
I'm going to get a drink really quick because I'm like dying of thirst.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. I just have my handy dandy
notebook.
So we get Mark in the hospital, and Debbie's next to him and says, you're safe now. She goes and grabs a drink and goes to give him a drink, and then says,
at this point, sorry, Bill, go.
And says, I'm so proud of you, and goes to touch his face, and he turns away and starts to cry.
And this was the moment that got me. I think previous to this, there's obviously emotional moments and things that I'm like, on. But for some reason, man, it was like we just kind of talked about how it's like we just saw all that and it's shock and it's comparing to the comic and it's sensory overload. And of course, it's sad, but also all these things are happening. But then this moment, after we decompress, we hear the news thing and it's like, okay, let's move on. But we can't because it's Debbie, and she goes to grab that cup and she like pauses for a second because she's trying so hard to keep it together.
She's losing it.
She's putting on this front for Mark. See, I feel like I'm tearing up now talking about it. And she says that I'm so proud of you.
We can cry together.
The first thing Mark hears, the first thing that she says to him is that she's proud of him for
standing up against his
standing
father.
up to his father, her husband, after what he did. And then she's like, get some rest, and she walks out of sight of him and crumbles.
Crumbles into the wall, cries. And, you guys just listened to the Robert Kirkman interview, and there was a really amazing description of that scene in the booth. And I can't wait to watch it again. Knowing like what went into that scene with Sandra Oh. Man, I hate Grey's Anatomy, but fuck, I love her in this. I fucking love her in this.
Cecil.
Yeah, so Cecil comes up and he starts to try to console her and say that he's going to try and put their life back together. And this was the moment too where I was like, I like the way that Walter Goggins, right, is like delivering this. Like this sounds like what I read Cecil as. Very somber,
the tone
very
and everything.
Very monotone.
I love that they made a call back to him being a travel writer. His travel books always sold well.
And now they're going to sell even better now that he's dead, so they'll be good for money. The next thing we get is the Guardians all walking in super exhausted. Something I missed the first time was Rudy coming out of the suit and it going and him falling out of it really exhausted.
So cool.
I noticed
very Iron Man.
Yeah, it sounded very Iron Man, but you know what? Fuck it. It sounded cool and it looked cool.
No, I like that. I like that it did.
Yeah. And Rex gets up and he looks at the blood stain on the wall and he goes over to it, gets out a bucket and some water and starts wiping it down. And Black Samson comes over and says, we didn't earn this yet.
Because this was a callback to the previous episode where Cecil says, you're leaving that there because you need to you need to earn getting the blood off the wall because the blood on the wall represented what they represent and what they're doing every day and they haven't done anything to earn taking that down.
Yeah. So Liz, when we were watching this, when Rex stood up and looked at it, she was like, are they humanizing Rex right now? And it was a great Rex moment because Rex Splode goes through a lot of character arcs.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of something new for him. And so Black Samson goes up to him and says that, and he says, go fuck yourself or something along those lines. And he goes to get ready to fight him. And all the Guardians stand up to defend Rex.
And then Black Samson brushes the dirt off his shoulder and he's like, now we look like a team.
Now we earned it. Now we look like a team. And I was just like, really? That's kind of like
my least favorite part of the finale.
I mean, I get what they were trying to do. For me, it just didn't land. It felt really like awkward. I don't even think awkward. I don't think Black Samson would do that.
We got that great moment of them like kind of joking with each other last episode or the episode before, I think.
Yeah.
And so if this had happened where Rex gets up after they're all tired and he starts wiping it, and then all the Guardians start, he looks over and then so-and-so's there, duplicates there, and they all start cleaning up and then it cuts away. I think it would have just been a little bit, just keep it simple. But doing the Black Samson thing I didn't really care for that.
The show did a really good job of showing me without telling me that they are a team now. And I didn't need them to physically say, oh yeah, we're a team now. Like I got it.
They already did it.
Yeah, they
already did it, and they did it in
episode 5.
Episode 5, where at the end of the episode they're all fighting together. After Black Samson said his whole speech earlier in the episode, we need to do it together, and then they all joined forces at the end. It was perfect.
Yeah, granted, Black Samson wasn't there; he was mutilated. But I mean, they got it. They just came back from not fighting bad guys, but from saving people. You know, and what a dick thing to do. But I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't land. For me. So now the scene starts, and it is a montage scene, and We Are Infinite by The Lighthouse and the Whaler.
Look at you knowing songs.
Hey-o.
I know. I didn't even have to ask you, TJ.
I love how we go from...
I actually had it ready for you.
I know.
I love how we went from like, a scene where that moment where I was like, that didn't land the way I think I wanted it to being like, oh, okay, fuck it. This show is fucking amazing. Like,
the best scene, like,
dude, this song, Jesus.
Dude, the way it started with like, so the song starts and you see just a cityscape and there's just birds flying and it's like it's like the city is dead. It's like the city is, everyone is so fucking just lost. Like they don't know what the fuck they just experienced. Like hope is gone pretty much. So we get a montage of Amber in school, Will in school, the Guardians training together, which was pretty cool.
Great scene with Duplicate climbing all over Monster Girl. Like I love that scene.
Yeah, and then there's a scene right after it splits all around, but then Monster Girl's giving her a bottle of water, and it's like, oh, I gotcha. For me, damn it, another part, art. Making a costume and looking at the picture of him and Nolan fishing. Picks it up, looks at it, and throws it in the trash. Like and Ryan, you had mentioned this because I was like, it looks like the pictures in this show are just straight up Cory Walker's art. And
I think in one of the trivias or something like that early on, because it happens when Mark is on Mars looking at photos. It happens when Eve is taking photos down after the breakup with Rex. Anytime there's a still photo, we're going to get to some in a little bit here. Anytime there's a still photo, that is just art by Cory Walker. It's just him drawing it, It reminds me of
it looked great. It brought me back. Like, it looked like 144 art. I was like, oh man, this is kind of awesome. I'm glad that they did that. So then the scene after that song plays, excellent montage scene. William's at Mark's house and Eve kind of walks in on him.
Hold on.
And
so question, how long has it been?
Weeks. It's been.
Oh, I think
it's been a really long time. Because
Cecil's about to say 2 weeks.
Yes, it's been 2 weeks.
Okay,
in and out for a couple weeks.
But the entire time it showed it shows that like Debbie hasn't left the house or they weren't home or
she hasn't left the hospital.
Hospital because when William gets there, he's like straightening up all the mail that they have on the door.
Yeah,
I like how that they use that to kind of.
It was cool. They showed Debbie like sleeping in next to Mark in the hospital. But still, like it's probably she probably doesn't want to go home either.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to. Sharing a home for 20 years for somebody that's been lying to you, like damn.
Last time she was in there, he flew through the roof.
Yeah,
probably rained.
Which Cecil fixed. So William is there. Eve comes up and she's like, "Hey, have you seen Mark?" And he's like, "Not since what I saw on the news." And he's like, "Oh shit." And then she, that's
the first time we can laugh this episode.
Yeah. And it was great. It was a really fun interaction.
He's like, oh, thank God you know too. I thought I almost blew it for a second.
I thought I blew it. So then the next scene we get Mark's pretty much healed in the hospital. Cecil says, hell of a thing you did there, kid. And Mark pretty much is like, where's my dad? Where did he go?
I saw him fly away.
Like, we'll talk about it later. And he walks out, and then we get we get a butt.
We get a butt. Yeah.
We get a butt. We get a man butt.
We get a man butt. So Mark's butt in between the little the nightgown or whatever he's wearing.
Should we announce it now? Episode 101. All about that shot, Mark's butt.
We're gonna do an entire episode on Mark's butt shot.
No.
If anyone listens to old episodes of the podcast, that's all we talk about. Sometimes it's like all the alien butts, how a character's teacher has 3 butts. And,
I think that's
like the ultimate.
I don't believe that. All right.
She has 3 butts.
Yeah. So they walk in. Mark is following Cecil, and he brings them into
the White Room. Now, this entire episode, this got the biggest pop.
All 3 of us were like, "Oh shit!"
Like, everything else that happened, we're all like emotional and close, and then all of a sudden this happens, and we're like, "Woo!" Like this was
fucking White Room,
dude. It was so cool. And going back, it was actually today that I was rereading, just kind of skimming over this issue. I forgot this happened in this moment. Like this is when we get introduced to Cecil. He walks him right into the White Room right after he gets out of the hospital bed.
And there's a point too. Like, isn't it in the hospital? I thought it was in the hospital bed, or maybe he brings it up in the White Room. But there's a point where Cecil tells him, like, by the way, your mom watched.
It's right now.
And he flips out, and he's like, "How could you do that? How could you?" And he's like, "Don't you think it's better for her to know?" I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So that is the conversation they have there.
And he's like, "Where are we?"
Yeah, and he explains that in all of the United States, all that very common tap water that people are drinking has something in it that doesn't allow them to see a certain spectrum of light, and that's what's in that room. So everyone in America, unless Cecil deems it, you cannot see what's in that room. And he says something awesome. He's like, you'd be surprised how often we use this, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I take it as that everybody that works in the White Room just doesn't drink tap water.
Yeah, that's the way I take it too.
Yeah. Or has ever drank tap water.
Here's a free idea for the writers. Make it several seasons from now a cool reveal that someone's like, they see that because they don't drink tap water. And they're like, you guys seeing this?
That's where all the crazy people come from.
Yeah, there you go.
Remember in Godzilla vs. Kong, the one guy was like, "You drink tap or bottled?" And
yeah,
they're
right.
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
So no one believes the crazy person because they're like, "There's a monster standing right behind you," and they're like, "Where?"
Yeah.
And then they just drink their tap water. So Donald asks Mark, he's like, "I need a replacement."
Cecil. Why do you got to talk about Donald, man?
I don't
Come
know.
on.
That was
we do see them fixing up Immortal in there though.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Immortal. That was a big thing.
And he said that as for your question, we lost track of Nolan. He was going, he didn't change trajectory. So wherever he was going, it was pretty far away.
Yeah, and he was going there fast. And they lost him once he left the solar system. Yeah. So he's like gone. Yeah. So he asked him to be like Nolan's replacement, Omni-Man's replacement, and he says, he's not ready, doesn't want to, and that's kind of where we're done with Cecil, and they leave the White Room. So back at the house, we get Mark and Debbie walk in the house. Debbie's like, I'm going to go upstairs and lay down. And Mark starts flying right away, and he's like, oh, that's better. You can tell, and he like kind of holds his body like he's sore. So not being like on his feet, like kind of relaxes him a little bit. Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool. And he hovers around the house a lot. God, I've said this a lot. Fucking best scene. Probably this is the most important scene in the entire season. Mark goes up and sees a picture drawn by Corey Walker of him, his dad, and his mom. And it's just a flashback of the entire season 1 of him being like, I want to be just like you. And Nolan saying, if you want to be a hero, you have to be ready to do things that you're not prepared to do. And it gets bloodier and bloodier and crazier and crazier. We're on a journey, you and I.
Yeah. You're gonna have to do things.
the worst part is when it shows Nolan doing terrible things and then a voiceover of Mark saying, I want to do what you do. I want to be just like you. And that this isn't just for like stylistic, like this is what's going through Mark's head. Like he can't believe that he aspired to be like this person. And he said it out loud.
Mm-hmm. And as he's doing this, he's getting flashes of the carnage that just happened with his dad beating the shit out of him.
And then it ends by him
the good
saying,
things, and then getting beat up. And he says, I want to be just like you. And he says, you will be. And
then he slams the picture down. So good.
Again, time to the punches.
Yep. So he goes to get something from the fridge, goes upstairs to check on his mom, and she's just bawling on the bed. And again, like the show just doesn't sound like this.
You said Liz audibly gasped at that part too.
Cried.
Yeah.
She was she like literally started to like not weep, but was like, oh, like, yeah, it's just terrible. I mean, we've all been there, you know, sitting in the shower crying, you know, from something crazy that happened. And this is
My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
Looking out the window.
I'm not okay. So Amber Amber is there and instantly goes up to Mark once he opens the door and kisses him, and he's like, "Oh, is this like
that
happening?"
Was a shock.
And she's like
doorbell rings, and I'm like, William, right? You know, door opens and Amber runs up to him and didn't expect that.
Yeah. And he was like, I thought, you know, and she's like, well, I'm okay with it if you are. And it seems like I'm not the only one that was being lied to, because and she says she figured out that Nolan was his dad because he's like, gas explosion across the house, like it wasn't, or across the street, wasn't very hard to figure it out.
Yeah.
So William and Eve also show up, and then they decide to kind of go out and talk about stuff.
Mm-hmm. Another moment where William is like, starts talking to you know,
Amber,
or to Mark, not knowing Amber's there, and it's like, oh shit. And Mark's like, no, she knows. And then Eve is like, oh, she knows. Like the way she like delivered that line was like a because like she was saying, don't tell her unless you're absolutely sure. You know what I mean? They had that whole back and forth several times. They had the whole breakup conversation on the waterfall earlier I guess I can't say earlier that day, but the last time they spoke was all about that breakup. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you told her? Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get scene Art's there drinking.
Sorry, she knew he had told her because that was why they broke up. Sorry, ignore that.
Yeah. So we get a scene of Art drinking, and someone walks into his shop, and it's Debbie. And they talk about, like, you know, how she can't believe, you know, she shared a life with someone that lied to her. And they share a drink together. And the thing that got me, and I wrote it down verbatim, and she said, this is exactly, I'm not skipping a scene, I'm not skipping a line. This is exactly what the dialogue was. Our time together was a lie. I wish he'd come back.
Yeah. So just like the comic, she says, like, even though I know he's a terrible person, like, I miss the Nolan that I knew. Like, she still lost her husband.
She didn't teach him how to be human, because that's inferring that he didn't have the ability to be human. Like, so she's teaching him how to act human. She showed him what it was to be human, and he became human. And I think she knows that. Debbie in this is super fleshed out, and all these lines, like from the comic book, make more sense because of the show fleshing it out. And Debbie knows that that Nolan is still Nolan. Like, and I think that it, like, I don't know. Do you guys think that it's like shock that it's like that? I don't think Debbie is sitting there like, I know that Nolan's really a good person.
No, I don't think so either. I think she's missing who she had. Exactly. She's missing the person that she knew for all those years.
So you took it as, I wish he'd come back, as in, I wish the old Nolan.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Because literally that's why they're so devastated. Like, that's why Mark is devastated, is because this guy that in the finale is literally nothing like the person that they've known their entire life. And it's they're not even close to the same person. So like it would be crazy if Mark didn't miss that person, even though that person never existed. Yeah. And the same thing goes with Debbie.
Sandra Oh killed it in this part too. And I'm embarrassed to say, the first time I watched this. I missed that line actually because I was so focused on what she was saying about how I didn't realize or I didn't think about what I would do afterwards, after, you know, if he had killed the Guardians. And then she says that line and then she says, pour me a drink. And I'm like, I went from one thought to the other and I skipped over that moment. So the second time I watched it, when she says, I wish he'd come back, I'm like, wait a minute, did you just say that? I didn't catch that the first time.
Dude,
and
same thing with me, man.
Dude, and then Art says, me too. Like, and it hit me really hard that second time. And and then Art just being like, I only got one glass.
I don't care.
I don't care. Poor.
Yeah. Ooh. So we get the gang at Burger Mart talking about terrible stuff, and then so we get Mark, Amber, Eve, and William.
It feels very like Riverdale. Archie.
Yeah,
it's just teenagers in a booth.
Yeah, teenagers in a booth at Burger Mart where there's rats and mayonnaise. I don't know. If I were Mark, I wouldn't go back there. So then, I mean, they're talking and Mark gets a phone call, has to go. And then Adam Eve is like, well, since we're like being honest with each other, I'm Adam Eve, you know, and then William is like, oh yeah, I can see it. You're the one that can make doubles of yourselves. And she's like, no, that's duplicate. I'm the pink one. and then he's like,
Amber's like,
and Amber both.
Oh yeah,
the pink one. Okay.
That's great. That's so funny, man.
It was really funny.
I like that. So when Mark's outside taking the call from Cecil, he's like, hey, I know you said you didn't want to do this, but someone's coming from Earth and we can't tell who it is. I mean,
Nolan.
So it's like, oh shit, he's coming back already. And I think that's part of what Mark's like, getting prepared for.
Yep. So Mark flies up, really cool, because he pulls his mask up over his head. So he's wearing his costume. Yeah. And then he goes up through the atmosphere and all of his clothes burn off. Pretty cool scene.
Did you guys kind of get like the feeling like, because this is like a cartoon animated series thing where characters always wear the same outfits. I kind of took this as like end of season 1, like boom, no
and
more.
He's gonna have a new outfit.
Yeah, like he's changing clothes. Like those literally
Ryan's
burned away.
Take.
That's kind of how
we're not gonna put a pizza bet on that, but I feel like that would be a pizza bet if Mark is gonna have a new outfit in season 2.
Burned up in the atmosphere. He's not gonna wear that one anymore.
Yes, TJ. Yeah.
A new costume. Why would you think he'd have a new costume?
Outfit. He means
I mean a new outfit. Like his civilian outfit. Yeah. So it's Alan. So Alan flies up to him really quick and he's like, "Oh shit, Mark! I gotta tell you, there's a Viltrumite on your planet and it was flagged for Viltrum takeover." And Mark's just like, "Yeah, I know. Come on, follow me."
Yeah, he's like, the Coalition lost their minds when I told them.
Yeah. So they.
I like how when he lands on the moon, he picks up the rocks like.
This is what we do.
Yeah, it's reversed. Yeah, Mark picks up the rock and drops it.
Everything has purpose. This is just like the comics.
Just like the comic, guys.
Everything that happens, this thing happened in episode 3, and you see this guy, and they sit on the moon and talk, and it's like everything comes back. That's great.
So, a couple things that Alan says here that's pretty important. Mark explains everything that happened, and Alan just can't believe that a Viltrumite left the planet that they were supposed to take over.
They don't do that.
It doesn't happen. They don't give up, and they do not leave a planet that is marked for takeover. So Alan talks about how his world was destroyed and how he can't really associate with the whole daddy issues because his race needed to create breeding camps to make sure that they didn't go extinct. So that's where Alan's from. Alan is from a breeding camp, and we definitely learn more about that whole situation.
Maybe.
And we'll get it.
Maybe.
It's backstory. We have to.
I'm kidding.
So he says something really awesome, and he says that the Coalition is trying to gather enough forces together to stop the Viltrum Empire, to fight against the Viltrum. Yeah, there's a power struggle brewing. And
Steven sounds a little like Lil Kato right here. He's like, what kind of power struggle? Like when he gets like really into it with Gary. Fucking Steven Yeun.
And Alan says, the Coalition needs to hear about this because again, this could be the turning point of whatever happened here. And Mark just has a smile on his face. And guys, this scene is so fucking important because Mark is seeing a much bigger world, and Alan's like, "Why are you smiling? Like, why do you sound so eager?" And he's like, what I just went through, knowing that there's a bigger picture out there, makes everything else in my life seem more manageable. Like knowing that there's like this huge galaxy spanning threat and all this stuff out there, stuff on Earth, to me, it just is, I can handle this now. Like this
Tuesday.
conversation with Alan was very, therapeutic for Mark. Like it's going to help him cope through what he has to get through.
Yeah.
And then
he does mention he's like
because he thinks that the threats are over. Like he's like, no,
because Alan says the Viltrumites are going to be back.
That's what I was going to say.
Once they have their eyes set on a planet, they won't back down. They'll be back. And then Mark's like, well, we'll be ready for them. And then Alan says, well, what's the plan in the meantime? And then the hives, hate to say I told you so, starts. And we get a very cool montage of everything that Mark is going to have to deal with. So we get the Sequids on Mars.
The what?
And the Sequids.
No, the what? The
Sequids. The Sequids. We get one of the Maulers in the jail, and I think his name is Kevin. Is it Kevin?
Oh no,
is it Jared?
Pete. Pete. It's Pete.
Are you sure?
I think it's Pete.
So his arm is in a cast, and he's got a neck brace on, and he's the guy that they used to break out of the jail from episode 3.
Yeah.
So one of the Maulers, we get the Flaxons are rebuilt. Dude, totally, their society's rebuilt.
You see the whole civilization out there. One slams a knife into the computer screen where it shows Nolan's picture.
Yeah,
with the beard.
Yeah.
Yep.
From him aging when he was there.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Doc Seismic is alive. So this happened also at the end of episode
Magmites.
3. The Magmites. So that's what those creatures are that are Magmanites or Magmites or something. There's a couple iterations of what they are. Number 5, we get Titan. And what's his name?
Mr. Lou.
Mr. Lou.
And Mr. Lou turns into the same dragon that we saw.
He doesn't turn into a dragon. A dragon comes out of him. But yes, we see this dragon in the first episode. And then we've also seen this dragon attacking Rome in the 5th episode.
4th, while Mark's in Mars.
4th episode?
I think so.
Oh yeah, yep. So we've seen this dragon before.
Yeah.
So
interesting. But then Titan rocks on.
And the music is awesome. Like the music is bumping, and it's like it seems very lighthearted and fun, but you're like, there's a lot of threats out there. Like, so number 6, we get Battle Beast.
When we see these aliens, I'm like, I honestly didn't know. This was a shock.
I didn't know what. I thought it was going to be more Viltrumites, doing something, or. But I think the whole point of this was just to show fans that Battle Beast is going to be a continuing character. Mm-hmm. So if you liked them in episode 5,
there'll be more.
Stick around for season 2. Number 7 is we get the second Mauler. Same thing, goes into a jail cell and has a smirk on his face, like, bitch.
Yeah,
I'll be out in a day or two.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Number 8, we get a room full of USA branded Reaniman with D.A. Sinclair doing his little tinkering and looking over his shoulder and
smiling,
giving a thumbs up and a big old smile to Cecil, and Cecil just getting a little smirk on his face, like, all right, now I can protect the planet, you know? And then it goes back, the music stops, and Mark's like, finish high school, I guess.
In response to
Alan's like, okay, that sounds good. What's high school? And then goes to black,
and the music kicks back in.
And no after credit scene, but man, what a way to end an episode.
It kind of reminded me of the way the first episode starts with Debbie walking into the bathroom, and how that was a little different than the comic. In this, it's like, finish high school, I guess, and you expect it to end, and then it doesn't end. Oh, all right. What is high school? And then it ends. Like, it just adds a little bit more, but without taking away from it. So cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was ad-libbed by Seth Rogen again.
Wouldn't be surprised, because they could have decided to cut it where they did, but that was great.
Absolutely
incredible, guys. Incredible finale. I mean, all around, I don't think we could have asked for a better season 1 and a better finale. That was so good.
That's it. I mean,
one
we
thing
can all go home now.
Yeah, we can all go home now. One thing that I thought I would have bet on that we were going to get would have been an Angstrom tease at the end. And I remember telling TJ before watching it, I was like, I bet Angstrom, but I felt more confident in that one. But my pie in the sky would be seeing Titan or the Sequids or something like that, to see what else has been going on. But I don't think that'll happen. So it's funny that the thing I thought was more unlikely actually ended up being way more prominent at the end.
You got all of them. You
everything.
did that thing, Ryan. You literally you were like, it'd be cool if we got like the Sequids and like the Flaxons and like Titan, and you're like, but that but we'll probably get extra. And then literally it was like Flaxons, Titan, like it was literally all, and you're like, oh no shit.
So obviously I can't say I'm disappointed, but I was like expecting Angstrom, but I can't be upset about that because we got all of that, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. TJ, were you gonna say something?
I don't know. We talked about it before we watched the finale together, and we were talking about what we wanted, what we were hoping for, and I called like the Angstrom tease a pipe dream of mine. Mm-hmm. I wanted it. I wasn't sold that we were gonna get it, and we didn't. But I mean, we know he's coming. We know
he's got to be coming. He's got to be coming.
And it's gonna be fucking nuts. And if you don't know who we're talking about, please read. What's cool about this is like. I'm talking to the people who haven't read the comics. You got to experience season 1 without having read the comics. And that was one experience. Now, if you want more Invincible, you can go and read the comics and then experience season 2 in a completely different way that you experienced season 1. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you from three of us, the three of us can speak from experience having read the comic, and literally it's all we talk about. 100 episodes of talking about Invincible, and we're the experts on Invincible, and we still were so surprised every single episode. So we can tell you, reading the comic is not going to spoil the show for you. I don't like it when I see that people are like, I don't want to read it because it's going to spoil it.
I don't remember whether or not Kirkman said it on air or not, but it's like, I think he did. Like, they kind of wrote it for people who read the comics with that in mind. Like,
read the comics.
It's have your cake and eat it too.
He said, and this is crazy. They have a formula. Like, they have a formula of how to make it different for the people who have read it. And I would not be able to crack that code. Like, it bothers me how fucking ignorant I am to how they did it. And obviously there's problems that I have with this season. There's little nitpick things, but man, guys, honestly, like,
what's a better adaptation?
There isn't there. And that what's cool too is like, read it if you want to. It'll definitely enrich the show for you, I believe. But my sister has never read a comic book in her life. And she fucking loved it. And then I was asking her about any of her friends. And she was like, and she was like, one of her friends just finished it. And he was saying that it is one of the best things he's ever watched.
I just saw today that
the last thing
episode or that this season is now ranked in IMDb's top 50 TV shows.
I can't, guys.
One season, 8 episodes.
Not animated TV shows.
8 episodes. There's next to nothing on the show yet. Like, there's only 8. They're only 8 episodes in, and it's already ranking that high on IMDb. It's got like what, a 96%.
96 in Rotten Tomatoes.
So that's the final score. The whole season is out, and it's at a 96%. That's big. That's really big.
They would have to forget literally everything that they learned in this first season. And then completely change what they want to do in the second season to fuck it up. I'm super confident we're going to get one of the strongest. Invincible is one of the best comic books there is, and there's a reason for that. If they continue this escalation of how fucking awesome this is, they're going to probably have one of the best TV shows that has ever been out.
I mean, Kirkman said it himself at the end of the interview. If you like season 1, man, that was just a taste. Like, they're going. Everything, they're ramping everything up. They learned a lot. They're going to do even better on season 2.
Be excited.
It's funny because like my mom is unknown. Like, when she finished the season, literally multiple times throughout the episode, she's like, "This is the last one. It's the last one of the season." She kept asking me like, "We're not going to know. Like, what a horrible ending. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens." Right?
It's crazy.
And then like at the end, she's like, "So like and I was like, "Mom, like." There's 144 issues of this comic. It's done. You just watch the first like maybe 13
25.
issues. Like there's more past that, but like that's like there's so much more that you don't know. Like you just watched such a small piece of it. And there's a reason why Invincible is so loved. Like, if the best part of Invincible was in the first 25 issues, like, that's not the case.
So when are we doing Rereader Mom Edition? Or New Reader Mom Edition? TJ's mom's going to be a new segment on the podcast.
Oh my God, I'm going to swear so much. Fucking Mrs. fucking TJ, what'd you think of that shit, man?
All right, we each have one email that we were going to read, and then we're going to start wrapping up this 100th episode. So Bill, TJ, you guys each have one. I could start it off if you guys want. Will you guys open up yours?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got one here from Scott Robbins. Scott says, hey lads, firstly, congratulations on episode 100. What a massive achievement. You guys should all be so proud. I've been listening for a good few years, and that's just crazy. And I've never written in, commented on YouTube, or participated. I've always basically been the meme of the kid, watching people and it's saying
it's funny
how I feel to listen to podcasts. I have been reading the comics for years, as well as listening to you all. It's been great to hear people discuss something I love so much. The fact that I can go to work and discuss Invincible with coworkers now is amazing. Listening to theories and sharing my comics and trades has been great. I have family who have started watching the series and are incredibly invested. What a world. I have just finished watching the finale and I'm still an emotional wreck. That baseball flashback and hearing after 500 years, what will you have, completely destroyed me. Also, shout out to that lighthouse in the whaler track. So question, how do you guys think season 2 will start? Do you think we will get the 3-episode start for season 2 and 3? Cheers, Scott from Melbourne, Australia.
Oh
shoot.
Shrimp on the barbie.
So, okay. I mean, season 2, hopefully going to get some, like we talked about, we wanted to see Angstrom show up in the prison with Maulers. I think that'd be a cool way to end the first episode of season 2, is for him to show up to break them out at the end of that episode.
I mean, you all know, because you hear him every episode of every podcast that we've ever done while recording remotely. But my cat, his name is Oliver.
Ooh.
I'd really like to see Oliver in season 2.
Certain character. Yeah. And we're going to talk more about these theories starting when we get into full spoilers next episode.
Right.
But the other question, as far as do you think that they'll stick with the 3-episode launch? You know what? Yes. But I'm not expecting season 2 for anytime soon, and a lot can change in a couple of years. So if that's still a strategy that is being used, then
did The Boys season 2 do 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Then they'll keep it.
Yeah.
So we'll see as time goes on, but I like that strategy. I think it gets people invested and hooked quicker, but we'll see.
Yep. I agree.
All right, you guys.
I'll go next. So I have one from Jason. Hey guys, it's been a long time, and as such, I feel like I should have some sort of profound thought on episode 8, but all I can say is damn. And I'm saying that after knowing what was coming. I don't know if it's just the fact that it was animated, but this felt so much more brutal than the comic. The last time I emailed, I think the discussion was about live action versus animation. Wow.
Episode 2.
Yeah. Really?
I don't know if that's what he's referring to, but that's when we talked about that kind of stuff.
Yep. I think now we can look back and say that making it animated was the right choice. They knocked this out of the park. Damn. Jason, P.S. that Conquest cameo though. Yeah, dude. So I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Like, what is the movie gonna do? But I mean, we said the same thing about the show. You know what I mean? Like, how can the show surprise us? And we know exactly what's coming, and then it still did it. So I'm confident that the movie's going to be good in its own way, but I can't imagine it.
Seth Rogen is so attached to the animated series as an executive producer and a voice of a character. They know this comic. They won't do it if it doesn't make sense. At least that's what I like to think.
Right.
TJ?
Well, going off of what the emails are saying already and how each email keeps starting out, I feel like the Invincible fan base, we're all just going to kind of come together just because we're all so traumatized from the end of the season. And it's just going to bring us all closer together. Next email comes from my mortal enemy. Mitch Krasen writes in again and says, "Hey guys, so I never want to ride a subway again. Two best parts for me was, quote, please, from Omni-Man after Mark's pathetic punch and somehow the baseball scene got me. Now that the season is over, who was the MVP of season 1 for you? Take the question how you want, but personally, I'm going to give it to Cecil. Not my favorite comic character, but man, every scene he was in, I loved. Congrats on 100 episodes. I can't wait to listen to 100 more. Mitch Krasen."
He also mentions that he can't wait to see Dinosaurus, his favorite character.
No, actually, he sent me a private one about how much he loved Rexplode and would never admit it on the podcast. I left it out, so just to show respect.
I hate to say this, but the MVP in season 1 was Omni-Man, and J.K. Simmons, and I hate to say that because he's such an evil bastard. In that last season, but his arc, man, like him, just the way that he went through everything. I can't imagine what he was going through, like internally, as this was all transpiring. Like from the minute that they were sitting at the dinner table and Mark got his powers and he was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we have to start this." So I vote for everyone was fucking great, but I'm gonna say that Nolan stole the show for me and J.K. Simmons.
I'm going to have to go with Debbie.
That's mine too.
Dude, the amount of growth they gave that character, the differences that they made, it felt like the whole season revolved around her. I mean, discovering Nolan and solving that and everything everything in the finale, like it all comes back to Debbie now. Some of the greatest moments in this series were Debbie centric. And I mean, the changes from the comic were one reason that we loved her. And then what actually happened in the show, those moments, those scenes, the music in certain scenes, the way certain episodes ended, the whole reason or backing up the reason why Nolan stopped punching Mark at the end, backed up all by Debbie.
It all came from her. And another thing too, like I think the writers understood when they wrote the season that Debbie was our anchor to the show. Yep. And Debbie was someone who we were supposed to be she was the one that we were relating to, and she was our voice, saying everything that we wanted to say.
Episode 1, man, perfect. her talk with Mark outside, just your normal everyday mom without superpowers, you know what I mean? Like she's the human. She's the one that, grounds us.
Yep. Definitely Debbie.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking it up really quick because I'm surprised that Sandra Oh, like I was like, has she even really done any voice acting before? Like I just see her on TV and stuff. She has done more voice acting than she has live action stuff.
Wow. Cool. I didn't know that.
Crazy.
We're going to wrap this up because it's going to be a long episode as it is. Got to end episode 100 by thanking everybody, from everybody, whether they're Skybound for helping us out over the years, Brian Huntington and Sean Kirkham for coming on the show and hooking us up, and them just being really cool and supporting us these, over the years, from people who've worked on the show and chatted with us online, obviously the comic, Corey Walker, Ryan Ottley, this thing that they created that we talk about for years. And again, the reason we have been doing this show and the reason we started doing this show was to just have a conversation with other Invincible fans. So the fact that we get people writing into us and talking to us and sharing their thoughts and everything like that, making this show for you guys has been incredible, has been so much fun. We've made friends, like literally friends that we play video games with, that we talk to online, that we text with, that,
across the country,
across the country, you know what I mean?
Across the fucking world.
Yeah.
The few listeners, the few ongoing listeners that we've had over the years, and the new listeners that we're getting, that are stemming from this amazing new show that just sparked up. Like, it's. I mean, you know what? Bill got super corny earlier in the podcast, so I'm going to get super corny.
Let's do it.
We're like one big family, man. We really are. Like Ryan said, like we like hanging out with, people, like meeting new people, going places. One day we'll get to go places again, meet more people. Yeah. And it's like, it's honestly like special to us. Like 100 episodes of like Bill said earlier, of a comic that ended years ago, and we're still doing it because like, not only do we love this comic, but we love the community.
And it's crazy that like, we talked about it a little bit at the top of the episode. This has become such a thing in regards to our relationship to each other. You know what I mean? Like we've talked about it before. The three of us do this thing almost religiously where we come together once a month or lately once a week. And it's almost, it's around everything we talk about now, outside of doing outside of recording. And so I can't imagine what the last 5 years would have been like, or how our friendship would have changed or would have evolved. But doing this,
which is kind of sad when you say it like that.
we probably wouldn't even be friends if it wasn't for
Invincible.
That's
not what I mean. I think if anything though, it's just grown. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy how close we've gotten. Like we've talked on previous episodes about how much this has brought us together as friends, and it's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast. We can't imagine that. Couldn't have imagined ever that we would have gone this long.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't ever see it ending, Ryan. You talked about how we're surprised that it's been going on this long, but I don't think that our community is invulnerable. I don't think that our community is going to stop anytime soon. I think that our community is actually.
That's great.
I'm going to say. We won't get to episode 200 looking on like, oh yeah, you can play this on episode 200.
Oh, haha. We'll see.
Some crazy time travel.
All right.
5 more years. Could you imagine doing 10 years of Invincible podcast?
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I imagine there's an episode of The Simpsons where I think it's a Halloween one, and it's where Bart won't let Krusty stop doing the Krusty the Clown.
Oh yeah.
He's like, here we are.
Yeah.
Doing 1,400 straight hours. Because you won't let us stop.
And that's where we'll be. 500 years from now. So thank you guys.
Oh my God, we're so corny today.
Oh my God.
What will we have in 500 years?
We'll still be doing this podcast.
We'll have everybody.
Thank you guys.
Right now.
Thank you guys all for listening. Thanks again, obviously, to Robert Kirkman for not only coming on the show, but co-creating this incredible thing that we've spent so long talking about. Thanks again to Wyatt Layne for supplying us with music. His music right now is the Invincible intro or the Invincible theme that he put together, the Synthwave cover. It's amazing. Thank you all the listeners out there that's been on this ride with us, and we'll see you guys soon on another episode. We're not going anywhere. So thank you all for listening.
So don't go anywhere either.
That's right.
Exactly. And you know what? Until next time, I'm Bill.
I'm Ryan.
And this has been 100 episodes of the Invincible podcast. And I'm TJ.
He did it.
He did it. What happened? What happened?
And welcome to the Invincible podcast.
Oh, I actually have to hit the hang up thing. All right. Here we go. All right. Bye, everybody. Old man.
Later.
Bye, guys.